All right. Let's get this going.
Well, I remember a teacher that I had. Now, I went through the 7th grade. I went to the 7th grade. And I left home when I was 10 years old because I was hungry. And I used to, this is true. I work in the summer and I go to school in the winter. But I had this one teacher. He was the principal of the Harrison School in Vincennes, Indiana. To me, this was the greatest teacher, a real sage of my time, anyhow. He had such wisdom. And we were all reciting the Pledge of Allegiance one day. And he walked over, this little old teacher, Mr. Laswell was his name. Mr. Laswell, and he says, I've been listening to you boys and girls recite the Pledge of Allegiance all semester, and it seems as though it's becoming monotonous to you. If I may I recite it and try to explain to you the meaning of each word. I, me, an individual, a committee of one, pledge, dedicate all of my worldly goods to give without self-pity, allegiance, my love and my devotion to the flag, our standard, Old Glory, a symbol of freedom. Wherever she waves, there's respect, because your loyalty has given her a dignity that shouts freedom is everybody's job. United. That means that we have all come together. States, individual communities that have united into 48 great states. 48 individual communities with pride and dignity and purpose. All divided with imaginary boundaries, yet united to a common purpose, and that's love for country. And to the republic, a state in which sovereign power is invested in representatives chosen by the people to govern. And government is the people, and it's from the people to the leaders, not from the leaders to the people, for which it stands. One nation, meaning so blessed by God, indivisible, incapable of being divided, with liberty, which is freedom, the right of power to live one's own life without threats, fear, or some sort of retaliation. And justice, the principle or qualities of dealing fairly with others. For all, which means, boys and girls, it's as much your country as it is mine. And now, boys and girls, let me hear you recite the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Since I was a small boy, 2 states have been added to our country, and 2 words have been added to the Pledge of Allegiance: under God. Wouldn't it be a pity if someone said that is a prayer and that would be eliminated from schools too?
Much for joining us. This is the disclaimers by Davidlee Buess and Edward Johnston. Today is Monday, August 14th, 2017. And we have a special guest, Rob Ryder, that will be giving out some information. Ed, take it away.
I would also, too, like to wish Dave best of luck. Dave is in the hospital. He had a major stroke. So on new.org and trackers, we have a little thing up there so you can wish him best of luck and say hi to him. And, give him some positive thoughts, because he needs that where he's at. Unfortunately, it's one of those circumstances that we all deal with in life, and So it's just how we deal with it and our bodies deal with it, and that's what it really comes down to. So these are the pleasures that we have to look at, and I'm not saying pleasure in a good point, but a pleasure that he's still alive. He's getting mobile. He is starting to work on himself to, see what his body's going to do. So there's a lot of things that he's dealing with, the positives. So we want to wish him the best thoughts on this and, everything that his body is going to allow him to do for himself. So, and that's what we all need to do is do that for ourselves individually, too. So, but anyhow, I'd like to, we have a special guest this evening. I've been entertaining my reading with him for years. He's done several hundred videos. He's very familiar on what's going on in the system of how the system is working. So just take a listen and see what you think, because it's up to you and your decisions and on the way you're going to handle your life, because it's your responsibility for your children to make sure that they have a future. It is not the people, it's not the government, it's your responsibility. You brought them in, so it's your responsibility. So with that, I'd like to turn the floor open to Rob, because I told Rob he's going to have an open forum, and then when he gets done, that's up to him if he'd like to answer some questions. We're going to keep the board closed, so we're going to give him a free forum to bring out what he's been doing. So Rob, the floor is yours.
Okay, thanks, Ed. Can you hear me okay?
Absolutely.
Okay, good deal. Good deal. Hi, everyone. I'm Rob Ryder, actually Robert Allen Ritluski. Rob Ryder is just an avatar because most people, myself included, that's a mouthful. And so just call me Rob. And I have done a lot of videos. They're on my YouTube channel at Rob Ryder, which is ROBBBRYDER. It has 3 B's in it. When I first set it up, I fat-fingered and I never fixed it, and hey, it works okay that way, so I just left it. Rob Ryder, though. And for myself, the ones I'm always most interested in are the ones I've just done, although I've never taken them down because they're really like my reports from the field. I'm not trying to teach as much as report, well, I went and tried this and this and this, and maybe from reading these things, we might want to try this. And the longer I did this, the more it became, well, what can I do outside of the courtroom instead of inside the courtroom? Because the first thing about the courtroom is you have to have a problem in the court to use it. So, administratively, sending complaints to inspector generals and to the treasurer, to the attorney general. I didn't really care who it was. I would just send them a complaint. I sent a complaint to TIGTA, the Treasury Inspector General for Tax Administration, complaining that the IRS wouldn't give me an audit. And they called me. And they came and we had a talk. So we talked for about an hour and a half at a coffee shop across the street. And that's one of the very first things I probably posted on, on my experience doing something. But what I learned from that was that, we're talking about the federal government, and I've been in the Army 8 years, so I know a little bit about the federal government, and they don't have to be feared, but they do have to be respected. And so if they're the civil authority, and they have the guns, well, I just need to get them point the guns the right direction. And so in the courtrooms and all these buildings where you see that gold fringe flag, that's an Army flag. That's the national color. If you look at AR 840-10, it'll explain that that's the Army national flag that the Army is supposed to protect with this color guard. So when you see an Army color guard, that'll be the flag. And it was just asked recently, because I had talked about this before, and someone asked a judge when he's in court. He said, "Judge, what's the significance of the gold fringe flag?" And the judge said, "Well, that flag indicates that the federal law applies here." And that's all he asked at that point. So I said, well, next time ask him, what does he mean by federal law? And so the guy said, what do you mean, the Constitution of the United States? I said, yeah, that. How about the United States Code, like Title 18? Yeah, that too. And he said, well, how about the Constitution of Illinois? And the guy said, well, only where it doesn't conflict with the federal Constitution. And I had to chuckle because I can see in my Constitution, it says right in there that these certain sections are unconstitutional according to the federal Constitution, so the state's at war with the Constitution. State of Michigan, which isn't, to me, that's King George's jurisdiction. It's not the de jure that came out of the Articles of Confederation, where it says in the first article that the style of the Confederacy shall be the United States of America. And all they ever use is United States of America. And so now I say, well, that's the improper venue, because you can challenge venue in court cases, and it's one of the things that you can use that I came across here recently. And so all this stuff to me is these little stepping stones getting closer and closer to, I really want to pierce the veil, right? I'm not here to teach, I'm here to push. And, so I try to use as much as my military bearing as I still may have, because that was a long time ago. I'm pushing 60 now. But, you either lead, follow, or stand out of the way. At least hold the door open. Yeah, I'm not anybody's enemy, but I'm leaving this crazy-ass shit. Anybody who doesn't know, when you go to court, if you were to look at the paperwork, the attorneys are not using their full legal name. They don't use their middle initial. They're using a pseudonym, a John Doe, a fiction, a AKA, call it what you will, but that isn't the name that they were licensed or authorized or were trained or whatever that word you want to use to describe, were ever trained in to do. And so they're using a fictitious name. Well, not only that, but if you look at the names of the court, they're using the improper name of the court. And they're actually taking us to a foreign jurisdiction under King George III and his successors. I'm quite sure that's what it is, because a guy recently had, well, this was back in February, he had a traffic case up in New Hampshire. And he's a CPA, so he's trained, relatively, he may know some people or talk to some people. And apparently he was a Freemason. And so he was in court, and he started asking the judge these questions about the court, and did get the judge to admit that the court is run out of the city of London. And while I've never posted his thing that he sent me, I have it in my records. I said, I want to post this because, I've asked too many questions. I really don't have any answers for it yet. But I probably will now. So, the traffic courts and so forth, at least one of their venues is the city of London. But it doesn't mean that's the only thing that the judge could judge. That's just the laws of that venue. And if you don't challenge the venue first before you bitch about the jurisdiction, you're not going to get anywhere, because the venue determines the jurisdiction. And venues, most simply, is your lowercase county, a defined territory, or a lowercase district. So it's a territorial land. And it would be by, at least where I live in Michigan, by the Public Land Survey, because that's how they survey the property. So if I see anybody that isn't using the Public Land Survey as their survey system, well, you're not using the system that defined the nation in the first place. So you're trying to sell me the Brooklyn Bridge, and, you don't own it. Well, and I mean, this is the problem for me. There's just so many different things. But what I wanted to make sure I did talk about were the things that are happening right now, where I just did a video yesterday. It was called A City the Size of North America, City Size of North America. And in there, as part of the video, I'm showing that come this Thursday in a federal court here in Kalamazoo, Michigan, at 11 a.m., they're going to have a hearing on a criminal complaint that the attorney in a bankruptcy case is in contempt of court for depriving this lady of her deprivation of rights under color of law in violation of 18 USC 242. And it actually got put on the docket, and she got a notice in the mail, and go look at the docket number, and sure enough, there's the complaint she put in with the affidavit attached to it. And I didn't know they would do this, but a notary actually put their seal on the complaint. It's like, wow, that's the judge doing it. I never thought they'd do it. I never even bothered taking it down to one. I figured, dang it, that says judge, they won't do it. Well, this one did. Boom. Okay, so that's the first thing, right? We got to get it into the proper style, which means we have to have an official witness of the state. Okay, this is my thinking, so that got that part done. But it's the serving it on the court that's the bitch, because the same lady in this bankruptcy case, she asked that judge some questions. And she said, Judge, if I want to get something in front of you, what do I need to do? And he said, you need to give it to the secretary or the clerk or whoever the lady is sitting down, probably the right-hand side, but sitting by the judge. And he pointed it out to her. And he went on to say, don't put it in the clerk's office. I'll never see it. Because the clerk isn't the court. That's the clerk's file. It's not the court's file. We need to get it into the court record. And so it needs to be seen as an exhibit, and it needs to be put into the official record of the court. And he's saying, give it to this lady. And she said, well, do I need to do that now? And he said, no, you don't need to do it now. You can mail it to her. And so she came back and we talked, and what he said was, well, whatever it is you give to her, make sure you tell me what it is you want me to do. And so I read all that in the video that I did yesterday, and basically that this guy is in contempt of court for him using a fictitious name, bringing it in an improper venue for a fucking, excuse my French, a plaintiff that doesn't have any standing. God, I don't know what else we picked up. So all this was about a deprivation of her rights under color of law in violation 18 USC 242 and contempt of court. And, well, now they're going to have a hearing on it. Now, she mailed it to the lady, and the person that she mailed it to is a person called the official recorder. And so if you were to download this thing called the Guide to Judiciary Policy, Guide to Judiciary, Judiciary Policy, Volume 6, Court Reporting, what you'll get is a PDF that comes out of what I believe to be some big-ass court manual from the federal courts, where it talks about court reporters and defines what they are, who they are, what their duties are, and it goes on to say under Section 220, appointment, each lowercase district court of the United States, blah, 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 shall appoint one or more court reporters. Okay, so the lowercase district court of the United States has a court reporter, and they have to be appointed, so that's the one I want to find. I want to take it to the lowercase district court. I don't care what the name is on the sign. I want the lowercase district court to see it. And so it will be an official recorder. And this official recorder has a duty, shall the reporter or other individual designated to produce the record shall attach his or her official certificate to the original shorthand notes or other original records so taken and properly file them with the clerk. And so what that's talking about is basically that. We're trying to get the certificate of the clerk of this recorder, because she's actually the court of record. She's going to put in the record, it's in the court now. And they're going to put an exhibit sticker on it or wherever they do it, and it's not going to go to the clerk's file, it's going to go to the judge. Now, people have done this before and gotten that far and actually had exhibit stickers put on, and then they hand them back to the person, they take them back. Well, you didn't go there to get the frickin' sticker on for you to bring back. It's supposed to go someplace. And so, it needs to go to the judge. And this is the trickery. These are clever people, down to as clever as they can be. It doesn't matter if it's using grammar, side speaking, using different definitions for words, whatever, right? But at the end of the day, it's all lie, cheat, and steal, so there has to be a remedy for a God-fearing man. God wouldn't have it any other way, so someplace there is a civil authority ordained by God, and that's my quest. I'm going to go find them and point out some crimes. And so that's where we are with her. They're going to have this hearing this Thursday, and we'll see if they play it straight or if they're going to do some sideshow stuff, and we don't really know until you get there. But it's the first time I've seen a criminal complaint filed into a court case. And there it is, AO91 form. Okay, but this just seems a little bit difficult because when you try to find these recorders, they don't want to be found. They really go out of their way not to be found. This one was kind of on the hook because the judge said it. And over time, I've come to believe, well, the real problem is the clerk's office, right? Because I've complained to judges before, and shit's changed in the courtroom. And so really, that's the thing, too. You complain to the judge about what's happening in the court. Nobody's ever getting proper notice or proper files, or they don't get copies of motions. Everything is it isn't in your full legal name. It's not Robert Allen Rytlewski. It's Robert A. Rytlewski, or Rytlewski, Robert Allen, or some deviation of my full legal name, which has been defined by Homeland Security. Is it Homeland Security?
Yeah, Homeland Security.
Yeah. Your full legal name is your first name, middle name, last name, no initials. And yet there's the attorney sitting there with a middle initial name on his on his paperwork.
Mm-hmm.
So Linda, she went down, and so now Linda has gone down as far as go to the Supreme Court of Michigan and get the guy's roll of attorney paperwork. And you also, if you were to look on the federal sites under what attorneys need to do, well, they actually need to register in that court too. And she got a letter under the seal of the court from the clerk's office what this guy's name is, and guess what? It's his full legal name. He isn't using the middle initial on them papers. Yet in the court case, he's using the middle initial. You know what? So is your attorney. The judge is. The clerk is. They all are. So if we're not using our full legal name, then this isn't, we're not in some kind of civil court, because they're not following those rules. And because of the gold fringe flag, it's like, okay, it's a military court, run under military rules. They declared martial law with Lincoln, and I believe it's still on. They've never undeclared it. And according to Lieber Code, you got to undeclare martial law by a proclamation or a peace treaty. Right? And the Civil War ended in an armistice, and so did the World War II. So we got enemies, foreign and domestic. World War I. We got enemies, foreign and domestic. Because an armistice is just a prolonged ceasefire between hostile powers. And we've basically been overrun, and we're in an insurrection, and, these people have taken over the offices. None of them have taken a proper oath of office. They don't have a official bond. There's only one oath that you can take in the federal government if you're going to be a commissioned officer to have satisfied Article 6 of the Constitution, and it's in a thing called 1 Stat, S-T-A-T, 23. It's the first law, the first Congress, the first sentence says this is the frickin' oath that satisfies the 6th article of the Constitution, and it gives the words. It doesn't have any religious attachment to it like 5 USC 3331 does. It says, so help me God. So that's okay to take. They can make you take it if they want to, but that same law says this doesn't negate any other oath you might have to take under law. And so there aren't any commissioned officers. The president isn't the president. They're all using middle initial names. The president hasn't taken this oath. The judges haven't taken this oath. None of the federal people have taken this oath, right? They haven't taken the oath to be a constitutionally appointed officer. And so they don't have any constitutional authority. So I don't know where they get their authority from other than they have the guns, but, I spent 8 years in the Army. Most people in the Army are pretty good people. Right? They're all more like me than they are like them. They all end up in the Army because there aren't any frickin' jobs in this country. Right? So, hey, you want to work at McDonald's or you want a chance at a career? And so that was one thing. So that's the thing about this going to the right person to give the paperwork to. Because if you want to put a complaint into the court, see, I don't want to put civil cases in. I want to put a criminal complaint in. I want to come in the name of the United States of America, ex-rel Robert Allen Rytlewski, pointing out a crime. What's the crime? Deprivation of rights under color of law. This guy who's supposed to be some kind of civil officer isn't following the fucking law. So, let's change that. And because these clerks don't want to be found, or these recorders, how else can you get a arrest warrant, right? But maybe that's not the right term. How can I get an order to show cause why an arrest warrant shouldn't be issued, because this guy's violating my rights. The easiest way is for him to stop doing it. And so no harm, no foul, right? Everybody gets an opportunity. This is your party foul. I'm going to get an order to show cause, and if you undo the wrong, then, well, you don't need to go to prison. But if you don't, well, then you're going to have to, because, you know, if the judge puts his seal on it, his ass is coming to court. Once they issue an arrest warrant, I had a guy call me about 3-4 weeks ago, and, you know, I don't know what his background was, but he sounded like he might know what he was talking about. He said, well, if they issue an arrest warrant, it will be criminally enforced if necessary. Right? So there must be some kind of agreement at the top that certain things are going to be enforced, and one of them is an arrest warrant. And so if they issue an arrest warrant, it's going to be served. Or, you know, they couldn't find the person, but and if the sheriff won't do it or somebody else, well, then somebody else will do it. It's just one of those pieces of paper that they can't get around. So how do you get an arrest warrant? And I was talking to Bobby, a friend of mine in Arizona that I do a lot of stuff with. I mean, he does a lot of this research for another flavor of it than what I do, so we can put the stuff together. And he's got his own issue right now, so we have a affidavit of probable cause that we're trying to get turned into an arrest warrant. And he's taken it to the police station. They haven't done anything with it. He's taken it to the Attorney General. I don't know if I got to be careful who I said he took it to, because we do a lot of different things. But I know this: they haven't done anything with it. And it came to mind that what we should try is to use a private process server and have it served on the court, because when you read what they do, they serve summonses and complaints. Well, a summons can be, you know, what you think they put on the front of a complaint and give to you, but the other word for summons is a subpoena. Right? Going to summons you to court, show cause why you shouldn't have to come here and answer to this claim that this gentleman's making against you. And so Bob, just before I was doing the call here, I was talking to him, and he had made a phone call to the sheriff department, to their civil office, and he said, I want to have an arrest warrant issued. And the lady didn't really blink her eyes, but she said, well, yeah, that can be done, but that's $1,500. Right? So somebody could get an arrest warrant for $1,500. And Bob said, well, I don't want to do that. Okay, let me call Bob. So we talked some more, and then, all right, well, don't tell him you want an arrest warrant. Tell him you want to have an order to show cause, or petition to show cause, or subpoena. And if you go look now, thinking about this, if you go and look in your local courts, you'll find these prices for these different writs and subpoenas and stuff. What we want to do, I think, is get those and have them served on the court to get the judge to put his seal on it, and then he'll serve it through the clerk by a proper summons, because in the civil procedure in Michigan, the clerk serves the court papers. And there's got to be they got like a list of 7, 8, 9 things she's got to have on there. Right? And those aren't on the summonses we get now, so it's like, well, these aren't the summonses they talk about in the law. It's the summons of the improper venue. And whatever that improper venue is, I want to get to the proper venue. And then whatever it is you have for a problem, it's going to be pretty much the same answer. Well, let's go and ask for a order to show cause why this attorney shouldn't be held in contempt of court and found guilty of violation 18 U.S.C. 242 for A, B, C, D, right? You don't need to have pages of stuff. You just need to have adjudicated facts that are in your favor. And, well, there you go. A crime is a crime. One thing wrong, it's a crime. I don't need to prove 10. These people are supposed to be civil servants, and if they're not following the rules, well, then they needed to be corrected. And so on that side, it's like, okay, I'll just handle it like a sergeant, right? I mean, we're just going to follow the procedure. If we can't follow the procedure, I guess we're going to have to do it again. And get them to follow a simple procedure, but before I can do that, I got to understand what it is. And they're tricky bastards, and they hide it. There's no doubt about it. So if you're in a foreclosure, right, then here's some other things you need to know. They like to use legal fictions. The borrower is a legal fiction, right? It looks like your name, but it really isn't your name. Neither is the name on the warranty deed. You know, the trust, the grantee, that isn't your real name. The name on the title insurance, that isn't your real name. but that does have the name of the legal fiction that they entitled the property to, so you want to claim that name, right? That's the DBA name. But I think before you can do that, you need to go and you need to claim your name because you are the taxpayer. Anytime you buy something retail, you just engaged in commerce. Congress has the authority to regulate commerce, and if they decide you have to have a business license, then you have to have one. I don't know that they have. All I know is I was able to get one for my all-caps name, and they gave it an FEIN number that isn't my Social Security number. It was done by the state. It wasn't done by the federal government. I went to the Treasury, and I said, this is my name, this is my address, this is the name of the owner, so, you know, all caps in one place and proper case in another. Got the same address. Yep, that's my Social Security number. That's my driver's license. All that's mine, 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 mine. I don't run away from it. I'm going to claim it and say, you can't use it. That's mine. You can't use it. And that properly done, they won't use it. Again, just a few videos ago, I showed a guy that he put in a DBA where he had actually claimed his name through the county, which maybe that's okay, but I still think we need to do it at the state. But he had done it through the county, and he had a traffic case, and he went into the traffic case, and they got started, and he said, Judge, I got a legal document to show you. And the judge said, well, give it to the bailiff. He did. He gave it to the judge, and the judge sat it down and looked at it, and looked at the dude, looked at the paper, pushed his chair back, stood up, did a little jig or something. I was checking his package or what, but he did a little something and sat back down and pulled his chair in, looked at the guy and said, well, can you pay a $20 administration fee? And Gail, I think his name is. I have to go back and look. Sorry, brother, if I forgot your name. So he said, yeah. The guy said, well, okay, case dismissed. And the prosecutor was looking at what just happened, right? But he had put in a DBA, doing business as, showing that him and his proper name was claiming that his all capital letter name was his property. I'm doing business under that name. They have hid our true identity. They never want Robert Allen Rytlewski to show up in a record. And so your birth record, it doesn't have your name that way. It has first name, middle name, last name. Right? It doesn't have just your name. The only document I've ever found that has just my name, just the way Mom and Dad intended it, is my baptismal certificate. Everything else is backwards, or using the middle initial, or backwards of the middle initial, or, you know, so like my military papers are all last name, comma, given name. The IRS uses my name with a middle initial. Social Security uses your name with a middle initial. And this is where the problem started, because Social Security, if you were to Google legal names, Social Security, legal names, put that in Google, you'll come to some little section of law from the Social Security Administration that says they only consider your first name and last name as your legal name. They don't consider your middle name your legal name. So if you put middle name on an SS5 form and send it to them, they're going to just act like it isn't there. And instead replace it with a middle initial. It goes on, though, to say that if you have a given name and you don't consider it a middle name, well, then put both names in the first name block. And so, you know, they gave themselves an out. Okay, well, it's a given name, Robert Allen in the first block and Rytlewski in the last name, and don't put anything in the middle name. But they don't tell you that. I mean, it's stuck on this page that, you know, if it wasn't for the internet, I'd never known this stuff was there. So, so they don't want you to show up. They're never using your proper name. Everything is done as a legal fiction. They're a legal fiction. They may have a license in the state of Michigan to practice law, but that isn't where they took you to. They took you to Judge Judy. They didn't take you to a state court. They're not using the state law. They're using the laws of another venue. So you need to say, hey, this is an improper venue. Or not go there at all and try to serve papers on the court to have them issue a show cause against the attorney for bringing the damn case in the first place. And so here, in Michigan, the place you are supposed to start a criminal case is the district court. So my plan is now I'm going to go, because I found the form to do a misdemeanor. I'm going to do a misdemeanor form against whatever it is I happen to pick at the time, and I'm going to have it served by a public or by a private server on the court. What Bob found out when he was talking to these people was they do keep an official record, and that record goes to the court, and it becomes a public record, and has to be kept for God knows how long, right? So once they're acting more like the bailiff of old, and that's what they did. They still have these offices. They just gave them different titles. They don't. The bailiff we see now is a brown shirt. Well, that's the wrong guy, right? We need whoever can take the paper, log it into the official book of the court, and then serve it on the court. At one time, that was the job of the coroner. The coroner kept the eye on the sheriff. He would take whatever the king's pleas were, which were things that were complaints about the king's law being violated. He put them in his book and gave them to the sheriff. And then he could make sure that the sheriff took care of the king's business. And we've tried to put in king's pleas before, pleas of the crown, I should say. Excuse me, pleas of the crown. And it was an interesting time back in the day. A guy put one into a court case where he actually handed it to the prosecutor. We hadn't given it to anybody yet. He just walked in the courtroom with it. And he was only there for one reason. The judge said, "You're only here for one reason. I was told if you didn't have counsel, you were in contempt of court." And as soon as he said that, out came the bailiffs to get the man standing there that, duh. He said, "Well, Judge, can I give this paper to the prosecutor?" And the judge was already leaving his desk. He said, "Yeah, go ahead." And he hands it over to him. And the guy starts reading. He says, "Judge," just as the judge is getting to the back door, "Judge, Mr. blah, 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 Tony somebody, Anthony, whatever his name was, is filing a plea of the crown into this court case. And we're going to go file it for him." And the judge said, "Well, you do whatever you need to do," and he left. Well, the bailiff still took the guy, put handcuffs on him, because that was their last order, so they were in attack mode, although they weren't violent with them. And they went and put him in a back room, set him in there, and about a minute later, a guy came in and took his handcuffs off, said, "Just stay here a minute." And 5 minutes later, they brought him back out to court and said, "You're free to go." So these crazy things have happened in the court, and it's how do you make it happen consistently? Just one other story, because I like to tell the stories that really stick out to me, is one of the first things I ever did in this journey was I was studying the idea of accepting the oath, right? Because I say that the oath is a unilateral contract, a gift or donation. And it's their gift to me, and they're the grantor, and as the grantee, if I accept it, well, now I get the gift. And so I came up with this phrase. I did this, 15, 20-page thing I sent out on emails. And I did a couple recordings on it. And this was really before I even started doing videos, or right at that time. But the phrase was, "I accept your oath, I bind you to it, and I remind you of your fiduciary duty." I went one further, and I said, "And I'll extend you my sovereign immunity for carrying out my orders." Because I know who's the fucking king. I am. Right? You're going to carry out my orders. Now, I've never had to go into court and use it because I've not had a court case. But this guy here in Michigan, he had a court. He actually had IRS come to his front yard and take him out of his front yard with guns drawn. And he went to a hearing, and then whatever that hearing was got done. They actually let him go back home. Well, he came to the next hearing, and his first words out of his mouth was, "Magistrate, I accept your oath, I bind you to it, and remind you of fiduciary duty. And I extend you my sovereign immunity while you carry out my orders." And he said he looked, and the judge's jaw dropped, and the prosecutor put his head in his hands, and the IRS guy sitting there didn't have a clue what was going on. But the judge composed himself and said, "Well, can you go have a seat in that room over there, and we'll send this IRS guy in just a minute." And so, lo and behold, he did come in. And what he wanted to know is, "What did you say out there?" He said, "Man, all you need to do is you need to write me a letter, and this is what it needs to say, and blah, 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 blah." Unfortunately, I never got the letter from him. He's afraid of the world, getting him, so he's still living in his basement type stuff, right? That people just don't want to share what they did, and I'm not judging him for it. I just need to tell the story and say, "Well, I can't really prove it. You got to take my word for it because he told me." So anyways, they told, they all came out to the court, and the judge said, "Well, did you guys work it out?" And the guy said, "Yes." He said, "Okay, well, is there anything else the court can do for you today?" And unfortunately, he said no. right? If he could have said, well, I want you to give me my Social Security account, he probably could have. But that didn't happen. But he walked out. Well, other people tried it afterwards, and they were trying it in state courts, and they would try it one time, and the judge would bark at them, and they would stop. And then this idea of, you got to try things more than once, right? And you can't let them not answer. You can't let their silence be acceptance. They have to answer. And so a guy here just got out of jail here recently. He just called me this weekend. His name is Corey. He's out of Chicago. He had an IRS issue. About a year ago, he was walking down the street. Next thing he knows, he's in court. And he was just now getting out of jail after spending a year in court. Spending a year in jail. Excuse me, I had to get a drink. But he's sitting there, and he calls and said, Rob, the first day in court, I was in there. I was sitting in a room, and they sent in the public defender, whatever they call him at a federal level. And the guy starts talking, and Corey said, really all I want to know from you is who's going to be the master and who's going to be the slave when we get out there in the courtroom? And the guy said, well, what do you mean by that? He said, well, you can't serve two masters, so I need to know who's going to be the master when we go out in the courtroom. And the guy said, well, I'm not going to be your slave. And Corey said, okay. And the guy said, and I have some advice for you. Don't believe anything these people say to you out there. Don't believe anything I say to you out there. And the guy left, and he was out there for maybe 5 minutes ahead of time. And then they called Corey out, and he walks into the room, and there's the guy who he had been talking to with about, I don't know, he said a bunch of suits, other lawyers. I don't know if they grabbed him out of the, whatever. They get him in the galley, and they're all in a little spot there. They're going to watch the proceedings in the courtroom. And he says to Corey, he says, well, if you need me, just remember I am here, right? If you need me, I'm here. And Corey went up there. Now he doesn't have any defender. He's by himself. And they get started. And he says to the judge, I accept your oath. I bind you to it. Remind you of fiduciary duty. And the judge didn't do anything. So he said, well, judge, in case you didn't hear me, I accept your oath. I bind you to it. Remind you of fiduciary duty. Still nothing. I accept your oath, judge. I bind you to it. I remind you of fiduciary duty. And the judge turned to the prosecutor and said, I'm protecting this man's God-given rights. And then they started the proceedings. So the problem for Corey, and he knows this now, is he didn't have his kill shot, right? He got the venue he wanted, had the judge where he wanted him, but didn't know what to say to end the matter, and instead argued what they brought him there for. Instead of saying, I'm here under deprivation of rights under color of law, right? He argued the matter with the attorney about an IRS issue. And they got to a point where the attorney said, well, Judge, I'm going to have 72 hours to get that answer. And, and Corey had said, now, at this time, as this is going on, the judge is just sitting there like an impartial arbitrator going back and forth. He wasn't hardly involved at all, except to direct the question to the other party. And so he said to Corey, what do you think about that? And Corey said, well, no, that's too long, right? Because I'd have to sit in jail. No, I ain't doing that. That's too freaking long. And so the guy said, well, I can have it tomorrow. And Corey agreed, right? There you are. Boom. You're leaving the courtroom now. That's as far as they're going, right? Adjourn for today. Come back tomorrow. Well, when he comes back tomorrow, he only tried to accept the judge's oath 2 times. And then they went on with what was going on. But he had this other idea. He was going to put in a assumed name form that he had gotten, and also his birth certificate. And he gave them to the judge, and the judge looked at him and said, do you really want to put these in your court case? And Corey said, yeah. And I don't know how that may have affected, what may have affected, but he ended up getting a year for this thing that he had been sent to, for his IRS issue. But he said he went to some, really laid back minimum security. I should have got the name from him, and I didn't really get a chance to talk to him long enough to get all the details. I was trying to take in what he was telling me with the meat, and it's like, wow. But he went to some minimum security prison for a year and, basically read books. And he said, for the way I was living before, running from this stuff, this wasn't so bad as compared to that. And so I'm not saying it's good to go to jail. I'm just saying they didn't crush the man, right? And the moral of the story is, as he was walking out of court that day, he looked at the judge and he said, "Judge, who was the master in the court?" And the judge looked at him immediately and said, "Today, I was." Meaning that yesterday, he was not. That's the way I interpret that. And so, Corey did his year and came out, and now he's going to go do this thing where, in my last couple of videos, I'm showing I'm going to go to the state treasurer because the sales tax is the sovereign tax of the state, and the use tax is the taxes of the federal government. And I'm going to get me a sales use tax license in my name because I'm the taxpayer. I'm already paying the tax when I go to the store. It's built in. It's called retail. If you're doing retail, you're in commerce. If you're in commerce, you got to have a business license. I know it may not sound fair, but that's the way they did it. But if you fill out the paperwork and say, "Well, I am in commerce, I'm doing it in my name, and I'm the taxpayer, so I'm not paying any taxes. I don't collect taxes, so when you do the return, you just put zeros on everything because, you didn't collect anything. You're the taxpayer. But now you get credit for being the taxpayer, and I just believe if you're the taxpayer, well, then Caesar will protect you because you're Caesar's taxpayer. Not the local government. You need to pay Caesar's taxes. And you are paying Caesar's taxes. But you're not registered for paying Caesar's taxes. And so everybody has their own perception of what they want to, what type of society they want to live in, right? But I don't want to live in anarchy. I want a civil authority ordained by God. And I want them to be in charge. And if I see something wrong, I'll go tell them. I know that that's what I'm supposed to do. That's my civil duty. I need to go tell them. They've just made it too difficult or almost impossible or a very narrow pathway to get it done. But today, because of what I learned just before this phone call, what I'm going to do is I'm going to fill out a form and give it to a process server and tell them to take it to the district court, which is the lowest level court, but it's where all criminal cases start. And I'm going to do it as a criminal complaint on I think it's called a DC 225 form here. That's a misdemeanor form, and point out a crime and serve it and see if the judge does something with it. And if that works, well, then that's what you would do no matter what they're bringing to court for. Just take the attorney that brought you there to court and get him to drop the case. But beyond that, because they're withholding your property, your deed of trust or mortgage and the note that go with it is really an investment contract, and the borrower is the investor. And the borrower, as the investor, is actually foreclosing on the grantee, you in another name, right? Because the name of the grantee on the warranty deed isn't the name of the borrower on the deed of trust. There'll be something different with the style. It may be uppercase, partly, may actually put different words in. They may have put periods, but it won't be exactly the same. And if it ain't exactly the same, if every jot and tittle isn't the same, then it isn't the same. And everything has one legal name. And if they ain't using it, well, then it ain't legal. And so I definitely want to use mine, and I'm going to make sure they use theirs. But if they won't, well, then that's a deprivation of rights under color of law, because any attorney is an officer of the state. They've been authorized by the state to do what they do. They're licensed. Whether they have a license or not doesn't matter. They got authorization to do it in their full legal name. I can show you the documents. But that isn't the name they're using on the paperwork. And so I don't need to get the judge involved. I don't need to get anybody else involved but the dude that's bringing me there. And even if it's like a non-judicial foreclosure, just as soon as they send you that paperwork, file a criminal complaint against that company. And we'll think of a reason here soon enough, but basically because they're not going to be registered in the state to do business. Right? So they have no business being there. And then we're going to file them against the title insurance companies because they entitled your fee title that you paid for in the name of a frickin' legal fiction. They're concealing it from you, right? That's called the unlawful conversion of your private property. You're supposed to have the fee title, and they gave it to a legal fiction. And so, you know, I don't want the money. I want my frickin' title. I get my money from these guys, right? I don't want the title company to say, well, here's money instead. Unless you do, right? You want to move, that's fine. But if you want to own fee simple, fee down to the center of the earth, as high in the skies up to heaven, well, there's only one way to do it, and that's to get them to do it. Because that's what you paid for. So make them do it. Apparently they can, because they insured that they could. They insured your fee simple title, and they gave it to somebody, but they gave it to a legal fiction. So either we got to do DBAs and try to claim all these names, or just say, well, no, that's unlawful conversion of my name. I'm going to file a complaint for a misdemeanor charge, deprivation of rights under color of law, and try to get a show cause hearing, and in that 10-day window, have the title insurance company do the right thing so they don't have to go to prison. Otherwise, go ahead, arrest them, and then give me my remedy. Then the court will give it to me, right? Either they're going to give it to me or the court will. If you can get an arrest warrant issued, I've been told that thing will be served. It's just, well, how do you get an arrest warrant issued? I mean, how do you do that? And don't make it a civil matter, make it a criminal. The plaintiff is the state of Michigan or the United States of America. The sovereign government is the plaintiff, and you're the ex rel relator for the plaintiff. You're saying the plaintiff's, this is what a plea of the Crown was. It was that the king's laws had been violated, and you brought it to the sheriff's attention. So we're just going back to what Old English law is supposed to be, and it. I truly believe that that's how the system is run. It's just hid because they have us give us a perception of what things should look like, and instead we don't go deep enough on the other into things to see what's just below the surface, because their lies aren't very deep, right? It's their first one is their stumper, and we don't know what to do with it. But if you can get past the first one, they don't have much left. I don't care if it's a clerk or judge or whatever. They got a couple pat answers. And if we just ponder what those are, or keep ourselves out of that position to even have to answer them, like, okay, well, that's what they do if we're in their ballpark, but how do I not go there in the first place? Oh, I fill out a complaint, and I say they're violating the law, and I have it served on the court, right, by a process server, because the very first process in a court case is the frickin' complaint. So you don't give it to the clerk at the window, you give it to a process server. Or you give it to the secretary of the judge, but that's been kind of hard to do. But we may have one happening here Thursday, because she did send it to that lady, and it got put into the court case, and there it is on, in Pacer. It's showing her criminal complaint against an attorney for using a fictitious name, bringing it into a fictitious venue, using an improper style. Like in hers, you'll probably, if you have a federal case, if you have any, look at the headings, look at the names on the paper, right? And you're going to see them using two styles of names, and the difference will be probably the words "for the." So, District Court of the United States, Eastern District of Michigan, or District Court of the United States for the Eastern District of Michigan. Now, I don't care which one is which. I'm just going to say, hey, those are two different courts, right? One of these is an improper venue. This is a deprivation of rights under color of law. I don't need to say anymore. Once you say it's a deprivation of rights under color of law, the plaintiff or the attorney has to prove that he didn't bring it in the improper venue. And so if the judge says something, I don't need to answer that. Judge, he does. I challenge venue. He needs to prove, and you need to make a decision. your part is done. You challenge the venue. So what I see with most people who get involved in court cases, they want to show the judge how smart they are, and they just go on and on and on. It's like, no, man, shut your damn mouth. You don't want to talk at all. You want the other guy to talk. You're there for him to talk. Because, you're going to hang by your own words. So let them hang themselves by their words. So, okay. I think I covered the things I really wanted to talk about. And so if you have something you want to ask me, now's a good time, right, while I regroup a little bit.
No problem. We appreciate that. We'll do that here in just a second. You brought up a lot of good points for people that they probably haven't thought about or looked at. And that is the one thing that we are here to open our minds and our eyes to the circumstances.
Right. So if somebody has a court case, right, those are usually the best things to use as examples for the things I'm talking about, because I'm not trying to do things like they want you to do them. I'm trying to do things that get things done.
Right,
so,
right.
I'll write to the chief judge and say, it's a freaking crime, judge. And sure enough, they would do something different, right? But it's like, okay, we're not quite there because, it was a not guilty plea or a not guilty decision, which means you are guilty. But, case closed and here's all your money back. That's what they did to a gal that we put a complaint, or we had written to the chief judge in Kane County, Illinois, who issued an order and put it into the court case. In fact, I think she put the letter into the court case herself and said that they would have a court reporter at that court case hearing. And they had this hearing that went on for like 3 hours, like a show trial. But at the end of it all, Rosita was the lady's name. She was found not guilty. Case closed, and they gave her back all her money except, I don't know, $60 or some kind of administration fee, where she had put in, I don't know, like $3,000, towards a bond or something like that. And this was all brought about because she had been at the Register of Deeds office. They don't call it that in Illinois. They don't call it Register of Deeds, but where your property file is. And she was just asking, well, how come the law says you're supposed to charge me this, and this, but that isn't what my receipt says?
Mm-hmm.
Right? So, they called the recorder, just went in her office, called the sheriff, and said, disturbing the peace. They came and arrested Rosita for basically an ordinance violation that in the next town over, when we got around to looking at what it said in these different ordinances, and the one for disturbing the peace was a $25 fine. Right? Yeah, she's got a $3,000 bond. It's like, what the fuck what's this about, right?
Right.
Right? How do we go from $25 to $3,000, right? That's like, hey, we're not doing it in law. This is all about getting you to sign a bond, right? That is what it is.
And get the contract.
Get the contract. In your fictitious name, right? Because they're never going to use your name, but somebody somewhere has power of attorney over your Social Security account. And we need to stamp that. And I guess that's the thing, because it's in this middle initial name, we need to get that name off. Oh, that isn't the owner of my Social Security account. My Social Security account is Robert Allen Ritluski. That's mine. It's not Robert A. He doesn't own nothing. He doesn't exist. It's a legal fiction that's been put there that somebody is operating behind. So what they did is, with this middle initial name, they have already registered your all cap letter name at the Treasury. Because when I went to get my license and I did the things and got it done, and I was able to look online at the things I could have access to, it showed that there were a couple of delinquency letters there saying I hadn't paid my 2015 and 2016 taxes. It's like, well, I just last week got, even got the license. And then it occurred to me, oh, that's because it's already been there. Because in the owner's name is a dude called Robert A. Ritluski. It doesn't have my name. I just have access to this account that shows the proof that this guy, Robert A. Ritluski, has established this account with the Department of Treasury in Michigan, and he isn't filing any paperwork, so none of the if you don't file your taxes, they're going to put a lien against your property. And if you don't claim your property after so many years, it goes into
probate.
Right. But what do they call it? They call it abandoned property.
Yeah,
right?
That's how they do probate. That's illegal anyways, but yeah,
right.
That's right to do.
Right, but that's what they're doing. See, your name is already there. This guy with a middle initial has opened up the business because it's a sole proprietor, or they got a name for a sole proprietor where you're a corporation or a company. I can't remember what they call it, but it's almost like being incorporated one step above a sole proprietor. I don't really understand it, but there's these two different things. Anyways, that's what it should be. And they did this, but he's not putting in the business filings. You only have to file once a year, right? And it's just a form that's asking how much tax did you collect. You just put zeros and everything. That's the way it looked to me when I decided to fill these out and send them in. But because you don't do that, then they put a lien against your property. And so any residual or any dividend check that you should get because, you do have a share of the public trust, you're not getting. It's going into unclaimed property, and, that's what they're living off of the interest or whatever it is, but they're not giving you the benefit of your account. They're keeping it for themselves.
Right.
I think that's what they're doing, right?
The third party is the treasurer on that, what you said.
Okay. Right. And so what I did, because now I do have a business license and so forth, and I showed this in my video, I said, well, I'm going to go ahead and write to the Attorney General, say I'm a taxpayer, and this is identity theft, right? Because somebody with a middle initial is taking over my account and, not putting in the forms and blah, 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 sending shit to the wrong address. Because that middle initial name, it's even on the stub to my Social Security account, which I got back, the stub is from, like in the 60s. And so it's not the part you keep in your wallet, it's the part you're supposed to take off and put someplace. And I still have it on there. It says, the name of the owner, Robert A. Ritlitsky.
Mm-hmm.
Right? That isn't me. How did they get that name? And then this thing about even though Homeland Security says your full legal name is first, middle, last, Social Security said, no, it's just your first and last, right? They're not going to follow the laws of Homeland Security, so they ought to be arrested. That's a deprivation of rights under color of law.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So I'm going to file that's probably who I'll file my complaint with, to the district court through a process server, saying that the commissioner of the Social Security Administration is depriving me of my rights under color of law because they have my account in a middle initial name and they've not given me any way to fix it. Right? And so now they have 10 days to fix it or come to court and answer for why they can't fix it. And so, I hadn't even thought about this, brother, until this phone call, right? So it's like that's kind of how this goes. It's just what can you do with what you might know, right? And I don't really claim to know anything, but, I just believe it's much easier to get forgiveness than it is to get permission, so I just go ahead and do things, right? I'm not trying to harm nobody. For myself, personally, because I did 8 years in the Army, I don't owe them anything, right? That's my commitment. If you enlist in the military, you got an 8-year commitment. Well, I did all mine on active duty, so, I don't owe you nothing, right? You owe me. I'm the veteran, and they've never really bothered me. I don't get bothered by anybody. I've been in jail five or six different times, and I spent a lot of time in the holding cell because I wouldn't play their game, but I got to look out the window and just watch this mass of humanity run through this place, right? And it's like, some of the people, they needed to be in jail, and some were really sick and they needed to be in a hospital, but they were better off being in jail than they were where they were before. Homeless people and all sorts of people that were there. And, because that part of the society has been taken away. There isn't a safety net. The safety net's a frickin' county jail. And okay, I'm going to quit talking. I'm going to ask a question, or how are you going to do?
We'll open up the floor on this in just a minute. Now, I see a lot of your points, and some of the points is that, people don't, realize what the laws are compared to commercial statute codes and administration are. And that is the whole point of properly educating ourselves compared to being confusion. Yeah. So what I'm going to do is we'll open up the floor for questions. So we'll let our gentleman do that. We'll open up the floor for questions, and then we'll go for that after that point. So let's see.
If somebody has a foreclosure or whatever, right, some kind of court thing, I'm happy to talk about it, but let's just see where we go.
No problem. Let's see what happens when we open up the floor.
All right, I am going to open up the floor to Q&A, and to get into the Q&A lineup, it will be *61, and please keep your questions to the point. Do not take too much time, and be respectful of others who are going to be asking questions.
Q&A session has started.
So the floor is open. Anybody want to speak up now? Okay.
Oh, is there anybody there? Are we talking to?
I'm
just
waiting.
Talking to ourselves.
The
No, we got people there. I'm looking at it. We got people there. A lot of people are just listening too.
Yeah, that's good. That's good. I mean, I can talk more. I just, I could. That's my problem. I don't have any problem talking. That's why I've done so many videos.
Well, I know that. The same with me. I don't have a problem talking either. That's what terrifies these people.
Yeah, right.
You know, because, I mean, I do quote the law, and I don't quote structures of anything but the law of the Constitution, because that's my Bible myself. Because without that belief, we don't have any other rights. Without that structure, there is no rights in the country.
Right, but they suspended the damn Constitution, and they've never rescinded martial law.
No, they did rescind martial law in 1947.
Did they?
Congressional record.
Okay. Well, I'd have to see it, but I'd like to see it because we have all these national emergencies all the time. That's like being under martial law. They're always declaring another national emergency.
Right, but see, that is the point where you bring out a valid point. When you file and own yourself, you're exempting yourself from that system.
Okay, well, good. Right,
Okay.
Exactly, right? I'm not going to run from Caesar. I'm going to pay Caesar's tax. They protect me from these crazy-ass people because they're lawless. They don't follow any fucking laws.
Yeah, well, that's the other point. They go by administrative rules and statute codes, and they don't even care about even that when it comes down to...
They don't sign any papers, right, in their proper name. I've seen people's complaints for felonies where it doesn't even have a witness signature. It doesn't even have a freaking victim. Nothing.
Oh, yeah.
Right? It's like this dude's going to go to jail for 5 years for a piece of paper that hasn't even been signed by a judge. Right? This is what he's been given. This is what you're charged with. Right? It's like, well, no, this isn't the way it reads in this fucking law I just read, because I'm pretty good about reading stuff. Right? I'll read it and read it and read it and read it. I'll read something all day long if I need to. Say, okay, I pretty much know what that means. Right? And so I know when it says you got to put in a complaint, well, there's got to be a complaint. Where is it?
That's a
and
fact.
They don't have that, right? Or they're not, or it's in one venue, right? They put it in the right venue, but they take your ass to the wrong venue and they, shake the fucking smoke and mirrors at you. And there was a law passed by the first Bush, 1991, 1992, where he says in the law, it's Education Day or something like that. This is from the Congress, but he signed it, paraphrasing, that we're under the Noahide laws. This nation is governed by the Noahide laws, the 7 laws of Noah. And it's a public law, and you can see he's not defined. You just Google George Bush and Noahide laws, and it'll take you to it, and it'll be on the what's the official, the printer, the United States Printing Office.
Yeah.
To be on theirs, and have the certificate around it and everything. This is a law, man. This isn't this wasn't made up by, a patriot or something. This is what they did. They say the nation is run by the Noahide laws. Well, those aren't the laws of God.
Well, it's not
right?
even the Constitution.
If you're a Christian, right? If you're a Christian, you believe that Jesus is God. Well, to a Jew, you're a blasphemer.
Mm-hmm.
So you've lost before you even started. It's like, that's why they can lie, cheat, and steal to a Gentile. It's all Talmudic law. That's one venue. I'm not saying that's everything. That's just, that's the Judeo, part of the Judeo-Christian system. It's their laws, man. It's, that's what they say. They say that the Noahide laws need to be enforced. So if that's what we're under, well, then I need to leave. And so that's another thing I've done. I went and got my baptismal certificate, and actually I didn't. Rosita did it for me. Thank you very much, because I had tried some other things with mine. But she actually called my parish and had them send my baptismal certificate to the nuncio to have it legalized. And so it came back now with a seal from the apostolic nuncio that it's been legalized, and the guy that did it would be in charge of the temporal goods. And they sent it back to me. So now I have this legalized baptismal certificate, which is supposed to represent my rebirth. And I need to get it into the public record, into a competent civil authorities record. And the problem is that none of these are competent civil authorities because they ain't taken the proper oath of office.
That's correct.
Right? So it's like, well, they can't do it. They're all de facto. They can't do nothing. I have a thing going right now where I had asked, I tried to put a complaint into the sheriff's office, and I got a smart-ass answer from the deputy. So I said, okay, I know what I'm going to do to you. I'm going to FOIA the Kent County office, and I'm going to ask for your certificate from MCOLS, which is the Michigan Commission on Law Enforcement Standards, blah, 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 which says you have to have their numbered certificate to be a law enforcement officer. Well, none of these people have one. Right? They don't. So I said, I want to see a copy of that MCOL certificate. Well, they didn't answer. So I wrote back, said, hey, you had 5 days, man. Where's my answer? Well, they will answer you the second time. And they said, well, we asked for an extension. Well, just this morning at 7:15, for some reason I was up early, I get an email, and it's from this FOIA officer from the Kent County Sheriff, and she's sending me a FOIA request that they have made up. They put my name on it without my middle name, yada, 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 and it has a copy of an oath of office for this supposed deputy sheriff, right?
Yeah.
And I'm reading the oath of office. I said, well, this isn't any good either. It's got the wrong style. It's got so help me God on it and so forth. So my point is I'm trying to entrap them in their own trap, right? Because they don't have this thing. I don't hate these people. I'm going to make them prove to me that they're a law enforcement officer, or admit, hey, I don't have that thing, man. And I'm sorry, I ain't got one, right? I'm not going to persecute them. I want them to admit they don't have this MCOLS certificate, so they are not a law enforcement officer. And it's that way in every state. There's somebody who has to license the law enforcement officer to be a law enforcement officer.
Claim responsibility.
Yeah. And before they can go to work for the sheriff, they got to have that, and they got to give it to the sheriff.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So if they don't have, no matter what state it is, it's all the same. And they may use different words and different styles, but basically, it's a system run by somebody, so it's just a cookie cutter using, wheel and wheel technology or whatever to change up the words. But the process is the same. Right? Their process for us is to make sure we never get paper properly put into the proper court officially.
Correct.
Right? They have us go into the clerk's office. The judge just said, if you put it in the clerk's office, I'm not going to see it. Well, I'm not going to say the judge is a liar. I'm going to say I'm not supposed to put it in the clerk's office. But who am I supposed to give it to? Oh, give it to this clerk by you. Okay. When I tried to give it to her, she doesn't seem to want to be around. She doesn't want to take it. She don't want the hot potato. Okay, so what else is there? Well, come to find out, hey, we got process servers, and that's what they do. And they can serve the court just as easy as they can serve you. And it says right in their website, right, that they serve summonses and complaints. And a summons is a subpoena. Order to show cause. Well, you shouldn't be found hearing. Order for a hearing to show cause. Well, you shouldn't be found guilty of whatever this man just said.
Right.
Right? Bring in your proof. And the thing about a subpoena is that's from the Court of Chancery. In Old English law, would have been from the Court of Chancery. Some Catholic bishop came up with the idea of the subpoena. because they were trying to get over the rigors of common law, where the common law basically says he who holds the title is the owner. So if I can get the title, I'm the owner. It doesn't matter if I stole it from you, cheated you out of it, whatever I did. If I have the title, according to the law, I'm the owner. Because the law, that's all the law can say is, well, who's got the title? So what are you going to do about that? Well, they came up with the idea of the Court of Chancery being the king's conscience. And so we'll call in the guy that's saying, well, I got the title, and say, well, now how did you get that title? Let's examine your conscience. And so really that's what all crimes are. They're crimes against the laws of God. They're just because people have lied, they've cheated, they steal. And they got all these codes and everything else they're talking about, but it isn't that difficult. The dude's lying, right? So we can call that a false statement. We can call it perjury. We can call it concealment, right? They got all these different names they can call it after the fact, but the fact of the matter is the dude lied. So, to me, just get it as close to the bare bones, lower C common law truth, where treat your brother like you treat yourself. And if you don't do that, well then, let every matter be established by 2 or 3 witnesses. So I'm a witness. The guy I gave it to is a witness. The judge is going to be a witness. There's 3 witnesses. Now let the guy come in and talk. Let's see what he's got to say.
Right.
And not try to run away from the system, but to make the system work, because it's just a system. It's a fucking machine.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So just grab the controls, man, and, give it some input.
Valid point.
Okay.
And that's the point we need to do, is start putting this in so our public elected officials, because remember, they're here to serve us. They don't have authority over us.
Right. But they haven't taken the oath to have that serving of you. They're not taking the proper oath. It isn't that they can't, it's that they haven't.
No, I know that. We've got them on recorded record even admitting they don't have licenses and stuff. Right.
So you fill out a misdemeanor complaint and you have it served by a private server to the court, and you say that is a deprivation of my rights under color of law.
Mm-hmm.
Right? And just get to do something with it.
Right. And that is...
Right? I don't know what they're going to do. I'm just saying, well, that's why I'm going to do it, because I believe that's wrong, and I don't mind bitching about it. And they don't bother me for doing it, so I'll bitch again. Who else can I complain to?
No, that's our problem that we all have right now, trying to figure out what, why, and how, and the best angle that is supposed to happen. And that's the point that we need to do, is work together, so this way we know what is working, what is not working, and not only that, how we're putting the criminal charges on our public servants.
I heard a bell. I don't know if that was intentional, like I'm supposed to not talk for a second, or...
No, I was just letting you know that there is a question in the Q&A session. The caller did get through.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, maybe you had a question, so please.
If I may.
Go ahead, May.
If you're in their system, and then you got proof of conspiracy to interfere with justice, an ex parte letter between the prosecutor, the agent of the state, and the judge, and this letter was held in secret for several months and acted upon. When you attempt to file charges, they refuse charges. They refuse to accept charges against the actors of the state. And then when you take it before the Supreme Court and ask for a special prosecutor because they refuse charges, the Supreme Court of West Virginia chooses to hide it. Which way would you go then?
The same way, right? Well, this is why, because I haven't done this yet. I just think that is the problem, right? You can't get them to take the damn paper. I agree. And so, in Old English law, the guy called the coroner was the guy that watched the sheriff. And so you would take what we would call violations of the state law to the coroner, and he would put them in his book and then give them to the sheriff. It's just who's the coroner. And then as time went on, well, they called him the bailiff. And you know, when you start reading like Blackstone and stuff, they have all these different names where they're Blackstone's Commentaries of English Law. That's what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
Right, they have all these different names of as they went through time, what they call these different ones. So I'm just saying, okay, they've changed the name again. Now it's called a process server. Right, and what again? What they told Bob today, because when Bob called the Maricopa County Sheriff's Department and asked and said, I want to petition for an arrest warrant, or I want to have an arrest warrant issued, the lady said, well, okay, that'll be $1,500. Right? Okay, well, you don't want to pay $1,500, but she didn't say, well, who are you? She said, well, that'll be $1,500. For $1,500, you can have somebody arrested in Maricopa County. But I'm not going to ask for, so I said, okay, I won't ask for an arrest warrant. I'll ask for an order to show cause. Why one shouldn't be issued if this guy can't explain whatever it is you're trying to have them explain. And, you know, because the judge told the lady, don't give it to the clerk because I'll never see it. Give it to this lady here, which is the clerk sitting by him, but she doesn't want to take the paper. But Linda did file it or mail it to her, and now it shows up in a federal court case. There is a criminal complaint that's supposed to be heard in 2 days against an attorney for contempt of court, but basically because of deprivation of rights under color of law. Right. So for me, I want to make it a federal crime. I want to make it one thing and say what they're doing, that's the evidence that they're depriving me of my rights under color of law, and that's a violation of this law. And I want it to be Title 18, because that's the criminal code. And I'm not going to be the plaintiff. The United States of America is going to be the plaintiff, and I'm going to be the ex-rel relator, as they call it. Right. So that's how I would do it, or I'm going to try to do it.
Yeah, well,
because of the things you're talking about. You try to give it to these courts, they don't do anything with it.
Well, the executive administrator, the so-called judge, the executive administrator for the State of West Virginia Corporation, was a party to the crime. And they've covered it up the whole distance. And
okay,
I've gone nowhere with it.
But the problem is, it's because you're taking it into the wrong venue. Right? That's all I can say is, well, that's the wrong venue. We got to find the right venue, the venue that's for us, and the doorway is narrow, and Satan has got his people out all over every place holding all the chalk points, but at some point there has to be a remedy, or we wouldn't be here. It'd already be over. The world would have ended a long time ago.
Yeah.
Right? But since we're not, since we're still here and we're talking about stuff like this, well, I just believe we're supposed to do it. All the people before us didn't have all this information. Right? It's like, wow, I can sit down and, I sit for days and just study stuff, and nothing is ever the same. It's always new stuff.
Mm-hmm.
If you ask smart searches, or not even smart searches, do you just search for words or phrases and see what comes up, and then search for words or phrases off that? It just keeps going and mushrooming. But so in your case, right, they've done whatever they did. Well, that's a deprivation of rights under color of law. Whatever you're talking about is the evidence, but the crime is deprivation of rights under color of law. That's how I would phrase it. And I would get a private server to serve it on the person called the official. Hang on, I'll turn this back on, because they got an official recorder, and then they have an official staff recorder. And, I would serve it on them to serve on the court. But in Michigan, it says all criminal matters you take to the district court, like the lowest level court, the place where they hear traffic cases. Right? That's supposed to be where criminal matters starts. So that's, I guess where I'm going to send it on the state level. But on the federal level, I guess I'd send it to this official staff reporter. And so, again, if you download Guide to Judiciary Policy, Judiciary Policy, Volume 6, Court Reporting, and you Google that, you'll find this PDF that comes out of this much bigger manual, apparently. but it just talks about federal court reporters and what they have to do and what their duties are. And I'm really big into reading procedures and seeing what other people need to do. Mm-hmm. Say, hey, you ain't doing this, or I'm really good at that. It doesn't take long to find something they're not doing. And so what are they supposed to do? Under 28 USC 753, the duties of a court reporter may be combined with those of any other employee of the court. So they could be wearing more than one hat. Official staff reporters or official reporters are salaried employees of the district court, lowercase district court, appointed by the court for an indefinite term pursuant to authority of judicial conference. If they have an indefinite term, they're the Supreme Court. Because these other monkeys aren't. They're not. They're United States of America. Right? That's who they're going after. If you look at the paperwork, it says the plaintiff is United States of America, and that isn't the name of the Republic or the Confederacy. The style of the Confederacy shall be the United States of America. But you go and look at the Treaty of Peace 1783 from Paris, where King George III is talking about him and his possessions. He says he's the King of United States of America. Paraphrasing, he gets through there, but, you go read it and tell me it doesn't say that. So they're not the same thing. On a passport, it says United States of America, and they got your name backwards. It doesn't say the United States of America. The money says the United States of America, and that's where the Federal Reserve is. Well, that's the Treasury, right? The Federal Reserve is in the right jurisdiction. We're not there, and they got our property. And people have been trying to get it out by, using the Federal Reserve's tracking number, routing number, right? People here have, if you've been following what's going on the internet, people have been using off of the back of their Social Security card, there's another number, and it starts with a letter. And that letter is associated with some Federal Reserve Bank. So somebody came up with the idea, okay, that's the Federal Reserve Bank. That Federal Reserve Bank has a routing number already, so I'm going to use that. I'm going to use my Social Security account as the account and do an electronic funds transfer. And it's worked. But it's worked for some, and now some people are going to jail. Go figure. Right?
Yeah.
Right? You know what I'm talking about, right?
Yeah.
I think that the only reason that happened to her is because she hasn't claimed her name as and she's doing business without a license.
She did it for everyone.
Well, she's a foreign agent, too. She's a member of the British Accredited Registry.
Okay, well, whatever. But it doesn't matter who you are. You want to do business, and retail is business. You can't get away from it. Or if you're going to pay your use tax, which is what they put on gasoline, you got to have a license. Right? Because it's commerce, and Congress, under the Constitution, has the authority to regulate commerce. And if they say you got to have a license, then you got to have one. Now, I don't know that they said that you have to, but I'm going to say, well, they gave me one, so I'm going to go get it and say, no, that's my property. I own it. You can't use it, and that Social Security account's mine. That driver's license is mine. And you know who's agreeing with me? The treasurer of the state, because he gave me the license. And go put that in your court case and say, I own the name. And to do it in Michigan, it was free. It didn't cost anything to do it. It's called the 518 form 518. And you don't have to give them very much information. So I think that's what we need to do, and I think we need to find the right door into the court, or we're never going to get anywhere with the courts because we're going into the wrong venue, and it's designed to herd you into the wrong venue.
Thank you very much.
Yep, brother. Are you gonna try it?
I'm going to try it, but it's going to have to be in the District Court of the United States because the Federal District Court is the wrong venue.
Excuse me. I don't drive. I travel.
Okay.
Yeah.
But if you were to...
Go ahead.
If you were to put on your envelope, right, because It's because it depends on who are you serving this to, right? And if we serve it to the right venue, it will go to the right venue. They have us going to the wrong venue and putting in paperwork, and then it doesn't get looked at. But if we were to serve the right venue in a system that has to have both sides, then it should be properly processed. And I think the way to do that is to call it whatever the proper name of the court is, which I believe is United States District Court, Western District of Michigan, without the for the. Mm-hmm. But I could be wrong. It could be the other way around. I just know they use both. And if I study it out long enough, I'll figure out which it is. But use that as the name of the court and just put on their official reporter as the person you're sending it to. And then give that to a service, a private service place to deliver to the court. Or send it to the chief judge. I mean, really, let's think about this. Who determines who does what in the court? I believe it to be the chief judge. He divvies up the paperwork.
Correct.
Right? So maybe we got to serve the chief judge. Most senior man, because, here the chief judge has administrative control over what happens in the court. And I've written to them before, and they've done things in the court, but it hasn't been a complete win. Dismissal or whatever, but I want them to say, no, that guy is in contempt of court and put him in jail. So,
or at times you do see administrative rules changed mysteriously.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, Rob, my thing is that, I'm lawful, not legal. Because there is a structure by the Congress and the congressional record, 5 more generations make you lawful, not legal. So it's knowing those of you, because basically...
Right, but all that would be wonderful, except nobody's taken the proper oath to enforce the Constitution.
No, but you are right. It's filing it. That's where I admire you for a lot of your knowledge that you put out by your readings, putting this stuff out so people can start learning how to know the separation of lawful and legal and how to proceed, because you are giving that out to the general public.
Right, and you call it lawful legal. I call it different venues.
Right. Yeah. No. No problem. That's
right. See, this is the thing, right? This is the thing about using different words to describe the same thing and being stuck on, no, it has to be my words. It doesn't have to be. I understand what you're saying. But for me, I'm just going to call it the venue because that's what I read and that's what they call it in the law. And if you want to challenge venue, then you say, I want to challenge venue. You don't say, I don't want to challenge jurisdiction. The jurisdiction is determined by the venue.
That's correct. That depends on what's on top of the flag or the gold fringe flag under Executive Order 10834. We know that.
So you need to get into the proper venue and then say, okay, in this venue, you'll know what the laws are because it'll be the proper venue.
Correct. And that is the proper education, getting it out to people so they comprehend their status when they go into court instead of throwing up their flags that they don't know what they're doing because they get it from somebody without doing the research.
Right. But beyond that, why wait till you go to court, write a complaint saying it's a deprivation of rights under color of law because they're not using their full legal name and send it in as a criminal complaint and just be done with it?
Correct.
Right. I don't want to go to court. I don't want to have to. I want to be done with doing this, right? So I'm just going to go for the kill shot and say, brother, I'm going to file this complaint, and you got 10 days now. If they will take it, you got 10 days because it's an order to show cause, and usually you have 10 days to answer. You either give me what I asked for or prove why you don't have to. Or go to jail.
Why am I wasting my gas and time when I don't need to?
Correct. Right. I'll pay the $20 to have somebody deliver this for me.
Yes.
Right. Or whatever it costs to have, whatever it costs to have it processed. But the important thing about that is what Bob found out tonight is that is an official record that does go to the court, and it's kept for a long, long time. Right. The book of a process server. I don't know that they replaced the notary public. Right, but they perform a service in the court that only they can perform.
Correct.
Because they got an official book. Whatever that official book is goes to the court. So, They said, "Oh yeah, when we put it in this book, it's it's the official record of the court," and that's what we've been missing, is getting it in the official record of the court. That's why they don't want to put an exhibit sticker on your paperwork. They don't want it in the court. They want it in the clerk's file.
That's right. And also, too, we do have a template we filed, and we do have up on the site that when the clerk doesn't do their job, you can file with them in Washington, D.C., and that clerk file, mandatory, if the clerk doesn't do their job, is terminated by their own administrative rules.
Okay. And if they'll do that, that's wonderful. I mean, that's the thing. I've tried a lot of these things, and that's what it says, but they still don't do it because nobody else is doing what they're supposed to either, right?
Following up. That is correct, because they're not willing to stand with each other. Everybody's trying to argue a point of view instead of realizing what they're standing up for. If
they have a form that whoever becomes an officer of the United States is supposed to, it's the oath form, and I can't remember the number, but I've shown it in my video a number of times, but it's the form they put into their official record, right? And it's written on there in such a way that they've broken the sentences up, so you're really, where it says oath, isn't the complete oath that's in 5 U.S.C. 3331.
Yeah.
The first sentence is left out of the part that says oath. So people take this and they sign it. They really haven't taken the oath that's in 5 U.S.C. 3331. But on top of that, they haven't taken the oath that's in 1 Stat 23, which that one they have to do. It doesn't have any religious, can't say so help me God, nothing. It's just support and defend the Constitution of the United States or something like that. Very, very short. It has no state thing. It's just all federal, right? And I mean, if you listen to Red Skelton, right, if you listen to what he's saying about the Pledge of Allegiance, right, that it's one nation with artificial lines for states, which means the states don't exist, according to Red Skelton's observations, right? The states don't exist. And the thing we're dealing with isn't a sovereign state. It's an entity trying to be the state. It's the state of Michigan. But if I go to the original Constitution of Michigan from 1835 and I read in the preamble, it says that the style shall be the state of Michigan, with the being part of the name. And that isn't what they use in the paperwork. They put state of Michigan.
That in Oregon, too, because Oregon didn't become a state until 1959, but the original treaty with the British government was done in 1846, so we're able to own land outright and not pay any taxes.
Mm-hmm. And the only reason that you don't is because your title insurance company entitled it to a legal fiction.
No, I agree with you. That's the whole point.
Okay, well, that's a crime, right? That's a deprivation of rights under color of law. File a frickin' complaint against them and get paid.
That's right, damages.
Right, order to show cause why you shouldn't go to jail for like forever, right, for entitling my fee title in a legal fiction.
Mm-hmm. Violating your oath of servitude.
Correct, right, and that's concealment, and that's unlawful conversion of property, and you can name all sorts of things it is, but you need to file it and get it into somebody's hands that gives a shit, right? And so where's the door where I can put that in? Because wherever you can put that in and get them to do it, well, that's where you'll do everything else at.
Oh, no, I agree with you on that. That is the point, you know.
Right. Right. So what I don't want to do is I don't want to be the one suing somebody. I'm not supposed to take anybody to court.
You just want remedy.
Right. I'm supposed to point out a crime. The only thing I'm going to say bad about my brother is he's breaking the law.
And where's
I don't really care what he does, but I do know what the law is, and he's breaking it. So what they're doing, because they're pretending to be civil authorities, only people who pretend or do have the power of the state, nation, can violate your civil rights or civil liberties. Mm-hmm. Right? Other people can steal your property and commit a crime, but to violate your civil rights means the government isn't giving you what you're supposed to get. And everybody from the attorney to a notary public to all these other officers, whether they are or not taking the office, they have taken an oath. It just isn't the proper oath for the office, but they still swore an oath. They swore it to somebody, and they swore it to God. And it still says they're going to support the Constitution of the United States.
Well, would you possibly consider that might go back to the Treaty of 1213 then?
I have no idea.
Okay,
Right.
you know about the Treaty of 1213, don't you, with King John?
No. Again, I don't like to talk about things that I'm not really studying. I mean, have I heard of it? Probably.
I don't
They
think...
get all sorts of treaties. Right?
Yeah, no problem, no problem.
Yep. Yep.
So I'm just, brought that up, but, we'll let that go so that you don't have that one. But, I mean, this is the whole point, that we've got to be honorable with each other, man, woman. Because if we're supposed to have a constitution, it gives equal rights, and that's where we have to respect one another for equal rights, not this conflict that saying that my rights is more important than your rights, because if we don't have equal rights, then we're sitting there fighting each other for no purpose.
Right. So basically, you got to treat your brother like you treat yourself.
Well, yeah, do unto others, you want others to do unto you. I think that's what...
Right. That's the Christian side of the Judeo-Christian separation of venues, right? But we're in the Judeo venue as Gentiles.
Well, we've had all this twisted through the system on us because people don't know how to honor one another today.
Well, that's the way they were taught, but, yeah, I agree with all that. That is absolutely true, right? But people have also been poisoned. They got shit in the air, shitty food, vaccines that who knows what kind of monkey gunk's been put in there. I mean, all sorts of things. I don't really blame people for being screwed up. I just thank God that I'm not quite that bad, right? Because I could be as bad as they are.
I agree. I know exactly what you mean.
It's like, thank you, Jesus, right? I'll do something, God. I'm going to work, right? Because I don't want my grandkids ending up like this, right? Or worse, because it only ever gets worse. It never gets better, right? The system is just, it's a system based on lack, and if you're going to use my name and make money to loan, but you're not going to at the same time make the interest, then somebody else is going to have to lose someday because the interest has to come from somewhere.
No, I agree with that. That's like we always put out in our structure. You can use anything we want for free, but if you're making a profit on us, if you don't make amends, hey, do unto others, you want others to do unto you.
Mm-hmm.
It will come.
Right. And so, when they talk about this debt and these trillions and trillions of dollars, well, where is that? It's just, it's sitting in the bank waiting to be tapped, right? It's just we haven't come with our card to tap it, but it's all ours. It's owed to us.
Well, we know that because the Bankruptcy Act of the British government went 5 times to the United States bloodline.
Okay. Well, whatever they did, it's there. It's in the Social Security account. What they did is they put a dude with a middle initial, and they gave it to him. They didn't give it to you.
And that's called the Federal Treasury when they do that.
It's called unlawful conversion of my property because that was meant for me.
Correct. We know, yeah. That is a factual statement, yes.
Right. That was meant for me, right? That's my inheritance. So, I want it, and you're going to keep it from me. That's a deprivation of rights under color law. Hey, we're right back to, that's why I'm going to write a complaint, I believe, and I'm going to serve it on my district court against the
perpetrators.
Yeah. Well, specifically, the person at the top of the Social Security. I think it's the commissioner of Social Security.
It's the board. The board has authority over it.
I might do one on Trump to get him to take the proper oath.
Oh, no. Well, see, that's the one thing I do admire about and I will say this, and trust me, I don't vote. I'm not part of the craziness of that system. But when Trump came out in March and said that he was the president of the 1871 corporation, and you know what I mean by that.
Well, I didn't hear him say it, but if he did, that's wonderful. Right.
Oh, yeah, that's why he's doing a lot of things he's doing where people are panicking because they don't know what the Constitution, the 2 constitutions of 1871 was about. You know?
But can you pinpoint where he said that? Because I would like to, I like to verify everything, right? So where and when did he say that?
Oh, no, I can comprehend what you mean by that. I'll work on getting that to you. No problem.
Yeah, because I'd love to see it. Because, I do believe that something happened in 1871. And why? Well, because The states didn't want to come back out of martial law because once they went into martial law, it made all the governors, they each had their little fiefdom. And they are the ones that have to rescind martial law. The governors have to rescind it. Lincoln couldn't get the governors to give back the power.
Right.
Right? So it's the governors. Unless all 50 states' governors have issued a peace treaty or a proclamation to end martial law, then martial law is still on, and that's why President is issuing, what was the last one he just did? National emergencies, right? They're all over there. If you go to the Federal Register and put in national emergency, it just is a never-ending list. They're always going on.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that's not done through the Congress. That's executive power. That's the kind of power you have when the Congress or the Constitution's been suspended because they're not following the frickin' Constitution. None of them have an oath of office.
Right, and you are familiar with Executive Order 10834 about the British flag flying or the military flag flying in the courts. It's federally illegal.
Well, it is in a civil court, but it isn't in a military court, and that's why I say that's a military court, because that's what the flag is.
No, correct. I'm not arguing with you, but that's the point where you have to challenge venue.
Right. Otherwise, you're in, like I said earlier, the guy from New Hampshire was told this by the judge that, so he's in traffic court, right, that court is under funded.
Well, and that's one thing I like about you, because you clarified that 3 years ago. I can't remember what video it was. You actually clarified that when I actually watched the video on that, and that's where people are paying attention to a lot of your stuff you're bringing out, because you are opening people's eyes up to another point of view they didn't think of.
That's good. That's the point, right? I'm not going to do what's already been done. There's already plenty of people doing stuff. And that's really why I don't like to mix what I do with what other people do. And I think we should just organically keep doing what we're doing and keep digging in your freaking hole, right? And we're going to get to the end, and no one's going to get left behind. But if we all try to do the same thing, well, we'll just all be doing the same thing wrong until it's all right. But until then, we need to keep doing something to see what works and say, okay, let's go try that again, right?
And when it starts working, we all work on the things that are working instead of trying to come up with a new idea that it's already been proven.
Right. But so for myself, right, I'm not trying to write a piece of paper to prove to them who I am. I'm trying to get them to agree that I am who I am because I'm already here. I don't need to prove it to you. I'm here.
You're
because
breathing.
I'm here, this says I get this, right? They don't want us to appear. To satisfy the Sesta KV Act of 1666, you have to appear before the proper magistrate. And they don't say who that is, right? Who's the proper magistrate I need to appear before so that I can have my inheritance back? Right? And so, because it's written, there is one. It's just who are they speaking of? And
that's the Roman courts are trying to claim that they own the world banks of our assets when they don't.
I don't know.
We own those over our bloodline. They don't own it.
Well, whoever owns it isn't giving it to me, right? So I'm going to have to go say, whoever got it, hey, where's mine? Right? I know that Jesus left me some, so where's mine? Jesus left everybody an inheritance. Everything's been paid for.
That's a
right?
fact.
We don't have to buy and sell houses; they're paid for. All we need to do is transfer the title. Right now, nobody has the title to their house. All property is abandoned. And the reason for that is they're not using the proper legal description when they transfer the property.
That's a true statement.
Right? So they're not using the proper, so they didn't transfer it to you. It's based on the public land survey because that's how it was surveyed, and if that isn't what they're using, then it isn't proper. But even when they use it, right, they do it up to the comma, and they don't do the rest of it.
Well, that's where they register it instead of giving you ownership.
Well, they don't give you on your paperwork the title to the property because they don't give you a complete legal description, and they're not trying to foreclose on a complete legal description.
They can't.
Right, so it's like it's all about the piece of paper, not the land, but they have us thinking the paper is attached to the land, and it doesn't have a damn thing to do with it.
Well,
right?
That's call mortgages. Yeah, I know.
Right.
You know, tell people to buy your land from a private landowner and set it up that way and get it out. Because if you buy land today, even through a mortgage, you are putting things into the mortgage under those structures that you're complying with their structure.
Yeah. And you're always a tenant, which means, well, you don't have fee simple title because you're a tenant.
Mm-hmm.
They'll make you a tenant in common or tenant in what? I'm not a tenant. I'm supposed to be the owner. Your taxes aren't taxes of the state. They're frickin' rent to whoever actually claims to own your property.
Correct. And that
has nothing to do with funding the state and things that happen. That's somebody's payday.
Mm-hmm.
Right? And so how do you break that? Well, you go to the title insurance company and you get the Schedule A to your title insurance, and the Schedule A will tell you who it was entitled to, and in there it'll have been entitled in fee, and you say, hey, that's not my name. Right? You converted my property to a legal fiction. Well, that would be a deprivation of rights under color of law, blah, 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 blah. Or, pick some laws, and I'm just going to pick federal laws. Federal crimes, Title 18 crimes, and say that's a violation, and put it in and see what they do with it. But it isn't a problem finding things to complain about. The problem is finding who to give the damn stuff to.
Right, how to properly file it in their system that they sit there and keep putting more and more mazes up to confuse us, so they're making more and more money that they shouldn't be making money off of.
Yeah.
Because I even got the paperwork that, when you file in court and stuff, you're not supposed to pay your court fees. I have all this by the Supreme Court administrative rules, by their own written rules.
Mm-hmm.
But it's applying it where you got somebody who's going to respect and honor that, and that is the hard, difficult point that we're all facing.
Well, and the way to do that, though, I believe, is, number one, you make the state the plaintiff because the state doesn't pay to have its case heard. So the plaintiff is the state of Oregon or whatever its full legal name is. And you are the ex-rel relator of the law that's being broken of the state.
Mm-hmm.
Or of the United States of America, or, forget the state, the United States of America, the thing that was formed under the Articles of Confederation that started the whole deal, right? Let's go to the beginning. The United States of America, ex-rel Robert Allen Bratluski, I'm saying these laws of the United States are being violated, and you need to do something about it, and ABC. If it takes more than a piece of paper, you're writing too much. All the shit they did to you is the evidence. It's not the crime. The crime is a violation of rights under Title 18.
Right.
And let everything they did be your evidence.
Well, right? Title 12 is fraud upon the court in Title 17.
Okay.
So
I just know what the criminal code is, right? And I want it to be a crime. And I know, because I read this someplace, that Title 42, if you bring up Title 42, well, that isn't the crime. That's supposed to be where the remedy is. So in there they have deprivation of rights stuff also. And while I didn't understand what they were saying completely, I said, okay, I'm going to say it's a crime. But it won't really matter as much, and it won't matter at all unless we find the right office to give it to.
Yeah, we're on the path of that one. We agree with that one.
Right. If we could find the right venue and find the right entry door to the right venue, then the system will do the right thing because somebody is watching the system.
Well, yeah, we know that people are watching the system, and it's just depending, like you said, who, what, why, and how.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the point that we've got to put together, and once we put it together, we know our public servants have no choice to do their honor, but they're caught in a conflict of interest because of what they're getting by both sides of the coin.
Yeah, well, basically them fucktards are going to take the proper oath of office, or I'm going to have them all arrested. That's what I'm going to do. Or I'm just start with mine and work my way up. I don't care who they are.
Oh, I agree with you on that.
You're going to go take the oath of office, and you're going to do your job, and if you don't start using your full legal name, then you're depriving me of my rights under color of law. Right? You got 10 days to come in and answer.
I did that when I ran for office, and it scared the hell out of them.
Good deal.
Okay.
Go tell them again. Go tell them what's going to happen.
Oh, I'm working on that, but I got to put a few more things up. But I've been in this arena for 30 years. And I have been elected a public official more than once. I've even been involved in writing.
Oh, well, you didn't take the proper oath of office either.
Yes, I did. That's what scared them. I actually did.
Okay.
They gave me their form, and I corrected it.
Oh, good for you, brother. Outstanding. Good for you.
So that's where people don't comprehend a lot of this, the circumstances of these issues.
I understand.
You know, and that is the point that what we're doing is we're not only educating ourselves, but we're educating others so they start seeing the light for themselves.
Okay, you're talking about people that were, you know, we all started out as babies. I got 3 grandchildren now that I didn't have 2 years ago, right? So I got these 3 little grandchildren, just a year and a half old, and it's like, you know, that's an innocence complete. And it's like to see that and then go look at the way people treat each other later. Well, at some point, these people lost their fear of God, and I'm going to put it back in them.
I agree.
Right? I don't want them to go to jail. I want them to do the right thing.
Yeah,
right? That's all I'm asking. Just give me mine and leave me alone.
I agree with you. I just have a little different opinion on something because I believe in the native point of view. You know, that's just my deal. But
I understand.
The thing.
Well, look at one of the times when I went to jail. 2 times I got taken off my front porch, and both of those times I went to jail, I just sat in the holding cell for 4 days, ate bologna sandwiches, and you know I wasn't going to play the game. But what I learned in there was on the second time, because what they do when you go in, they want you to say, you know, your last name and be your last name, and they ask everybody, what's your name, what's your name, what's your name? You know, I wouldn't do that. And so they said, well, who are you? And I said, well, I'm an immortal living spirit.
I love it.
All right. Yeah. Mortal living spirit, here in the image of God, here. Now I can't remember how I said it, right? It was one of those, the Holy Spirit said it.
Yeah, one of those things that came out from me. I know what you mean.
Yeah, and then, you know, he kind of walks toward me like he's going to do something, but I knew he wasn't going to do nothing. He didn't even look like he was even pissed. He just walked into, he said, what did you say? And I said it again. Yeah, okay, and he walked out. Well, at the end of it, though, I said, but you can call me Robert Allen. And so, you know, after about 3 or 4 times, well, I was just Robert Allen. Right? I mean, it doesn't take long to convince them that, you know, you don't have to be violent to get them to give you some, well, you're still in jail, right? So that isn't good. But jail can be really bad, or jail can be, well, I'm here. Why am I here, God? What am I supposed to learn while I'm here? And, you know, that was kind of my approach. But I'm just saying that they did pay attention to that. And I had to go into a video court for this time. And so they marched like 30 of us out. Well, I'm still in a holding cell. They haven't even fingerprinted me yet. Haven't given my name. And yet I'm being told to go get in line to go to court. So, okay, I'll go down to video court. And I had to stay outside, and they did everybody else. And then they called me in. And I'm the only one in the room. And there's the judge. And we start talking. And I'm there because of suspended license or something like that. And I had child support, back child support. And she said, but I really don't want to talk about that. She said, I want to talk about these, and I could see somebody handing her to her, these 3 complaints that I had sent to the court that were pointing out kind of the things we're talking about now, but without as much knowledge or, you know, being able to put it in words well, right? You. Right, but she still said, I really had to study these. I want you to know I really, really had to study these. And blah, 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 blah. And she says, and it's not that you're not correct, but I'm just not inclined to issue any warrants. I was trying to get warrants issued, right?
Guys, I know where you're going. Trust me,
right.
I know exactly.
But she says that to me. I said, well, it's not that I'm not correct, which means I am correct. She's just not going to issue any warrants. I said, well, then that means you're going to, perpetuate the fraud. And she said, well, you can appeal my decision with the circuit court. Mm-hmm. And, of course, I said to her, I said, well, I don't know what that means. I thought you were the district court, but you can't issue a frickin' warrant, so I don't know who the circuit court is. And, off I went. But, I mean, to me, she didn't have to give me any of that, right? Yet I got my own little time there, and she said, well, it's not that you're not correct. And a double not means you are correct, or, they cancel each other out, so I'm correct.
They tell you how to fail, but you're in the ballpark.
Right, but I'm not inclined to issue any warrants. It's like, well, how do you get them inclined to, how can the scales not be weighed evenly that you can see, you just said I was correct, but you're not going to issue a warrant because I was in the wrong venue. I know that now. Well, I was in the wrong venue. But
no, I get you on that. It's like the last time I was kidnapped and held for ransom is because I told a couple of cops they couldn't serve a warrant because it wasn't issued by a grand jury.
Good
and
for you.
they kill me in jail on it, and and I asked the medic that kept on feeding me nitroglycerin in jail. And I said, how much is your percentage you're getting paid when I die? Because I know there's a percentage that is paid for everyone who dies in jail, and you get a percentage in your paycheck. What are you how much is your percentage? And then 2 hours later, next thing you know, I'm brought in the hospital on IV for another heart attack, and he didn't want to address it. So they know that this is real. They know the game. They are schooled in this stuff. They are not saying when they say that they don't know this stuff, they actually get it in police training. Because I used to be what they call a rent-a-cop, so I know the truth.
Okay. Well, they're all rent-a-cops because none of them have a certificate from the state to be a frickin' law enforcement officer.
That's right, and you can't get a law enforcement officer unless you are a federal marshal.
And yet, it says in the Michigan law, to be a law enforcement officer, you have to have this certificate from the Michigan Commission on Law Enforcement Standards, MCOLS, and you need to give that to the law enforcement agency that hires you, so they are supposed to have it in their record, and yet when you go asking for it by FOIA, they can't seem to find it.
Yes, correct.
Right? They just can't seem to find it, so I guess you don't have one, which means you are not a law enforcement officer according to the Michigan law. It's a deprivation of rights under color of law. I'm going to file a complaint with the frickin' judge.
Right, and not only that, you committed a federal crime because you're getting federal funding and state funding for something you're not doing.
Right, so I can make it federal. It's 18 U.S.C. 242, deprivation of my rights under color of law.
241, too, yes.
Okay, right. And, and for me, and this is the thing about me, I want to pick one thing, very short, be able to say it so that if I ever need to blurt it out, I don't really need to think about it. Because as you can see, I do forget things over time. It's like, what did I tell them guys at that time? I don't remember, but it was really good, and the Holy Spirit spoke, and, they pretty much left me alone after that. So
I get what you're saying on that, but that's the point of, with the education that we're providing people, because they are on their own, because we're not attorneys, we're not lawyers or anything like this. We're reading stuff. We're comprehending of what's going on around us. And it's for those that to comprehend what the Great Spirit or God has given you for your knowledge.
Absolutely, right. God, the only teacher is the Holy Ghost, right? All we can do is provide information. And if a light bulb goes off, well, thank Jesus, right? Thank the Holy Ghost. Thank you very much, Holy Ghost. He does that for me all the time. Right? Because I really do work at this. I mean, I work at it like I got to get this done, man. There's people losing their houses and people going to jail and all sorts of shit for shit that doesn't need to be.
Exactly.
But I'm not going to take a gun and do it. I spent 8 years in the Army. That isn't the answer, right? I'm not going to go shoot nobody. I'm not going to condone that. I don't want to go to war with Russia. I don't want to go to war with North Korea. I don't want my kids going to war. I want this crazy-ass shit to end.
Well, let me tell you something, Rob, what I've done. I filed on some federal judges in times, right? And I've had the marshals get a hold of me, and I won't get into anything about the marshals in my own personal past. Trust me, I know the system. But anyhow, the marshals would get a hold of me, and they say, why would you do this and file this on the judge? And I said, well, if I'm not mistaken, he has an oath, and he has to do this. So what are you trying to raise war on the country? I said, we the lawful bloodline Americans are the government by the Constitution. How could I wage war on myself? That is a moronic statement that says I'm a sovereign citizen. What do you think, I'm stupid? And then I don't from anybody again.
Right, they don't have an answer for that. That's what you need to do. Say when I had complained to TIGTA, the Treasury Inspector General, that the IRS wouldn't give me a audit my account. and I got a chance to talk to these two agents, right? Well, because they ask you, they start going through their things of questions and stuff, and and they get to the one, are you a sovereign citizen, right? And it's like, well, if you mean a sovereign of a nation of one and a citizen of the kingdom of heaven, then yeah, you're talking to me. But here, I consider myself a man of peace. And that dude, I could see right there, they flick something in his head. You could almost see the tension, whatever tension there might have been, drop completely.
In there, because you're claiming of British royalty at that point, and they don't know how to deal with that because the IRS collect for the British government. They don't collect for anything else.
Well, I believe what I was telling them is I'm not a belligerent.
No, I know what you meant. Exactly. I'm not.
Right. That this system is lawless.
Right.
And we're overrun by an insurrection, but I ain't one of the frickin' belligerents.
Well, that's like when King George went back to England in 1879 and says, oh, the Bible now is going to be accepted. Prior to that, if you had the Bible in your house, you were beheaded. So it is on the circumstances of knowing how the facts work compared to what we're led to believe. Because the IRS agents collect for the British government. They don't collect for anything else but the British government. And that is a proven fact in the Bankruptcy Act of 1933, March 9th, and the 400 pages in Inspector General's report that we have in 1932.
Yeah.
The point is knowing where you stand in your life. Do you want to be legal, lawful, or do you want to be free?
I want to use my full legal name in all legal matters, and I want everybody else to. And if we're not, then I ain't in the right venue.
Mm-hmm.
Right? That's what I'm looking for. And the wonderful thing is, right, when you do say, hey, this is an improper venue, they do stuff different in the court. They don't tell you, okay, we changed it, we're in a proper venue now. A guy on the 31st of July, he had a hearing where he had said that it was an improper venue, and they were going to have a hearing on it in Chicago, or actually in it was Kane County also, Kane County, Illinois. And so they're having this hearing, and the guy hadn't noticed, but his dad had come along, and his dad had noticed. He said, there's no bailiff here, right? There's no brown shirt bailiff. And the recorder wasn't the same recorder that had been there before. And they're supposed to be having this hearing about the attorney answering for the motion that said he had been an improper venue. But like most people, right, the guy couldn't quit talking to the judge and make the attorney talk. But finally, he said something to the attorney about him bringing his case into an improper venue. And the attorney said to the judge, he said, Your Honor, he's doing it again. He's insulting me. I'm going to have to leave. And the guy said, yeah, but you're not using the name that you have on the roll of attorneys that's kept by the Supreme Court of Illinois. Okay? And the guy didn't say anything. And so this guy didn't, go back at him again, make him say it again. I mean, that's the thing. If I ask somebody a question, they're going to answer it, or I'm going to ask them 3 times to answer it. And if they don't, I'm going to say, well, he must not have the license he says he has. Regardless, he didn't do that, and they went on to something else. I don't know if the judge distracted him or what, but his dad was watching the attorney, and he could see the guy, the longer he stood there, realize what he had just said, or by not saying anything, on the official record when he was challenged that he wasn't using the name that's on his authorization from the Supreme Court of
Yeah.
Illinois, right? By omission, there was an omission in the record. He didn't say, well, sure I am. Of course I am. He didn't say anything. And so we'll see what happens in this next hearing, because now on the 25th, I think, they're supposed to have a pretrial conference, and that's supposed to be where you can put any exhibits or evidence into the court case, and that's what they're going to do. And so this is another case of the guy got the venue changed but didn't have the kill shot to get the thing over with, and they were able to, escape the day and come out the other end. But the attorney looked wounded. The attorney still looked wounded.
No, I get you, but I would like you to bring that back to see what turns out with that one, because hopefully the catches that and puts a filing in before he gets back into court, so it's filed with the recorder, so that way it's not a conflict of interest.
Yeah, if this is the pretrial hearing where he can put in exhibits, then this is the thing that they're not letting us do.
No,
we're not getting any evidence into the court. Everything is hearsay coming out of the clerk's office.
That's right, and they're not telling you because the district attorney and the presiding even attorney is hearsay witnesses. I've even got the court cases on that. So they're not going to tell you this stuff because they're hoping that you're not going to file and request it.
That's all it takes, right? If you don't do it, well then, hey, it's all hearsay. And because we're attorneys, well, we have a presumption of being correct.
Right, exactly what they say to the general public.
Right.
And as living men and women, we have authority over them, and see, we have to exhort our authority over them instead of hearsay witnesses. Because you know in court, hearsay witness is not acceptable.
Absolutely. Right. The only hearsay isn't. A witness is a witness. Anything else isn't anybody, right? A witness.
Attorney is not a witness. He didn't witness the crime or the injured party. So he's
right, but a witness is somebody who'll swear before God, right? That's what I say a witness is. So if I put it in an affidavit and I swear before God, well now...
I agree with you on the affidavit point. I'll never even go against you on that because I do it all.
I'm not the defendant. I'm not here as a defendant. I'm here as a witness to point out a crime.
That is a fact.
Right? That's why I'm here, Judge. I don't know what you guys are here for. I'm here as a witness to point out a crime.
Right.
These proceedings are a violation of 18 U.S.C. 242. Please write that down, Judge. 18 U.S.C. 242.
Even in court, if you lie on that, you could do up to 15 years in prison on that. And you know that what I'm talking about. So I agree with exactly your statement on that.
Right. So now we need to do it in court. If that's where you want to do your business in court, well, then tell them that. Otherwise, serve the court and say it's a crime and see if we can get them to do it without us going to court. And that's what I would rather do.
No, but also, too, we want to get the man's business license if he's liable to do business in the court as well as commercial business because that goes interstate because they do contribute to the Vatican Church every court case. That's
okay with me. I write the Pope. I write to the overseers of the Vatican City Bank. I CC them on everything I send to any of these people because I say I am a fundamental interest of the Holy See and I am a partaker in his patrimony. But it's being withheld from me by these people, and the Pope Francis wrote a motu proprio in 2013, the criminal motu proprio that everybody talks about, that said, hey, we're going to protect the fundamental interest of the Holy See. Well, then I'm going to be one. I say I am.
Well, you know...
The Holy See isn't a religion. The Holy See is a internationally recognized entity.
I do know that, and what
I'm going to be, it's going to protect me. If it's the biggest, if it's Caesar, then Caesar can protect me.
Well,
I don't care who Caesar is. I got no fear of the civil authority ordained by God because I am a righteous man.
You know the Pope has been filed on. That's why he's the unofficial Pope in the world, right?
I know what about him?
You know that the Pope has been filed on as the unofficial Pope in the world.
I don't know what that means. It's been filed on by who?
Actually, you're talking to the gentleman who filed on that with the Treaty of 1213.
Well, I believe the Cardinals disagreed.
The Cardinals could disagree, but that's English law from England, not from our soil. And if they're going to be running our court system, they have to honor the Constitution of the Treaty of 1213 and the Magna Carta of 1215 and the United States. If they cannot honor that, they have no placement being even in this territory. Actually,
they were here first.
No, technically, if you go back, natives were here first.
Technically, if you go back, the Pope was here before the United States, before any colonies.
That point, I won't argue that point. What I'm saying is,
He actually sent an English king to plant a flag, and the dude was a Catholic.
Yeah, I know that, but remember...
Hey, well then that's how far it goes back. It goes back further than you want to admit.
No, I can't sit there and plant a flag in your home and say I claim it, can I?
And how did you claim it? Then how do you figure you can?
It's simple.
They were here first. You came on their territory. They planted the flag.
No, Rob, I'm not here to argue with you on this point.
Just saying. If we're gonna use history, then we need to not pick a place where we're gonna stop. We got to go back further.
So then if we're going to do that, let's go back to real history, where it says that the British government came here and planted a flag and says, I'm claiming your land, like they did in Africa, they did in France, New Zealand, and 30 other countries. They put a ship and they arrived on the shore and they put a flag up and it says, now this is the King of England's land. I can't come into your home to put a flag up and says, I own your land, because I have to respect that your land is for you and your bloodline.
And yet, that's what happened. Then all these Europeans came here and pushed out all the natives and brought in the people from Africa who got pushed out because, that was taken over by other natives. And, I'm not blaming anybody. I'm just saying, well, whatever it is today is fine with me. Just tell me what it is. Who's Caesar? I'm going to have Caesar protect me.
Well, see, I've already got Caesar on that realm, but we won't go there. But, the point is that you have grandchildren, right?
I do.
You want to leave your land to your grandchildren, hopefully.
No, you don't own anything. They didn't fucking put it in your name.
Did you claim it as your name?
You didn't put anything in your name. Your land that you're talking about isn't in your name. Now, when you get the record straight, it will be. But right now, it isn't in your name.
It is in my name. That's what's scaring people. Okay? Because I'm leaving my land to my heritage.
Oh.
We have a right to do that by each state treaty with the government.
If you have it, if you have their agreement to your statement, then good for you. That's a wonderful thing, and you should show people how to do that. I'm saying most people, when they go look at their property record, it doesn't have their name as the grantee. It's got a legal fiction. Their name isn't on the simple title. It's a legal fiction. They didn't put it in their name.
Honorably, I'm not disagreeing with you. You are 100% correct, but people don't know how to claim that. You even admit that in your own statements.
I know, but that's what I'm trying to do. I'm going to go claim that and say, hey, that's supposed to be me.
Exactly. That's what I admire about you, what you do on your videos.
Okay, well, but to say that you own something then isn't yet because your name isn't on the deed.
Yes, it is. It's how to file it.
Okay, outstanding.
If I may.
So I'm not disagreeing with you.
I've looked at a lot of people's paper, and they're not on the deed. Go ahead. Somebody wanted to...
Go ahead, speaker.
We do have a caller on the Q&A session.
All right, well, let's let the caller go in, and I admire Rob for being here, and without him, with our knowledge, we wouldn't be able to protect your bloodline. So keep going on, caller.
Hey, Rob, it's Bob in Arizona.
Bobby, how are you?
Hey, good. I want to kind of reel you guys back in. I don't know if you had told them about the whole thing with the lady in California where to get the arrest warrant, because I think we're kind of getting sidetracked, is that we need to try to access the other side of the court, which is what we're doing, which is you have to serve this stuff on them, and where apparently she could get an arrest warrant from the county sheriff's office for $50, but the whole purpose, what people have to understand is that, we definitely need to access the other side of the court where we're giving the complaint to the judge, so that way he can make a judicial determination and get things executed versus, the traditional way where they have us going to these attorneys or somebody else to do that stuff for them. So there is other ways to do and access the court. It's just that, that is what we are being deprived of. And, that is something that we definitely need to work on. And as far as, the name on the deed, just as a side note there, sir, is that I know that for a fact for mine, that after Rob had pointed it out as far as a fictitious name, I did file the name as it was on the deed as saying that it was a married man, married woman, and the Secretary of State went ahead and agreed with me and gave me a certificate for that fictitious name, or DBA like they do, showing me now as the owner of that name. But at the same time is that when I try to do my last name first, middle, and then also doing my last name first and just the middle initial, she sent back a letter both times denying me of that right, as sitting there saying the names were too generic. So,
right. They wouldn't let you use a middle initial name for a DBA, right? You couldn't do business in a middle initial name. They said that's too generic, yet that's the name that's on your Social Security account.
Right.
At least mine. I mean, that's where mine is, right? So,
right. But
and the thing about the court, right, just so everybody knows, we don't know how to do it yet, but you talked to the service people today. What did the sheriff's department tell you about getting an arrest warrant?
Well, my story would be the fact that I always get a little nervous, and Rob always says, don't hide, don't say nothing. But, the minute I go to speak and talk to these people, they always want to steer me in the direction they want me to go instead of what I actually want to do. And so when I was talking to the sheriff's office, I told the lady, I said, well, I want to go ahead and get process paper served. She said, well, what is it you're wanting to do? And I said, well, I want to get an arrest warrant. She goes, okay, well, that'd be $1,500. I was like, what? She goes, yeah, that's for a deposit. You got to get the officers and everything. I was like, oh, okay. And that's that particular time.
So slow down, Bob. Slow down. So she didn't say, well, you can't do it. She said, no. You said I want to get an arrest warrant. And she said, well, that'll be $1,500.
Right. And then she
right.
said,
so for $1,500, you could have had an arrest warrant.
Right.
Right. So for those that, in case nothing else worked, I'm just saying, well, that's what the Maricopa County Sheriff's Department said tonight, that for $1,500 you can have an arrest warrant.
Right.
Right. So okay, good enough.
And then one thing, like Rob's saying though too, and the reason why she was going to connect me with a sergeant, but he was taking a test. But my thing also too is make sure that you get the paperwork for them, like Rob says, so you can see the procedure, so you know exactly what they're supposed to do. So that way you can say, well, no, it's not what this says. This is how you're supposed to do it, and question them on it rather than just going by what their customs say that they're supposed to do. And so,
what about the other server that you talked to? She said that it is an official record, right?
Right. So then I talked to the other private server lady, and this was for $20, and I asked her if she could serve paperwork onto the judge. And she kind of hemmed and hawed about it because she wasn't really too sure. She said, well, what is it you're wanting to do? And I said, well, trying to follow the Arizona state statute where it does talk about laying your complaint before the proper magistrate. I said, and as a private person, if I want to get an arrest warrant, I'm supposed to go give it to the magistrate to give it to him, but I'm being denied. So I want to know if you are able to do it. She kind of hemmed and hawed, didn't really know because, she didn't really know if she was able to do it or not. So she wants me to call tomorrow at 10 o'clock and talk to a guy that apparently he is a little bit more familiar with this stuff. But what she had said, and so I at least asked her, I said, well, you guys are in at least official record, right? And she said, well, what do you mean? I said, well, it goes to you. It goes into a book and everything else. And she said, yeah, we take the official record and we put it in our book, and then we'll go give it to the records at the court in downtown Maricopa County, and I've been there before, at the courthouse where the clerk's office is. And she said they go store it in the basement in there, and that's the official record that they hold in storage. I said, okay. I want to see that happen.
Right. So, if we can get an idea what they put in their book, but basically I think it's like a notary. Well, what did you give me? It's It's a complaint, whatever it is, and they write it in the book, and then that becomes the official record that you serve something on the court. It's going to get a number or something on it.
Right.
Yeah.
I believe, if I'm not mistaken, they give it. It's an affidavit that they put into the book that they did serve it on somebody. They're giving an affidavit that they served whoever.
They have to do that.
Right. So all we're going to do tomorrow then, or during this week, is we're going to say, okay, well, let's go give them something and say, look, just give it to the court. You can't talk for the judge. And so I'm thinking, Bob, that as I was going through this evening, that if you had to say, I got to serve it on a judge, well, you'd serve it on the chief judge because he has administrative control of the court, and they divvy up the work to all the other judges.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So give it to the chief judge. Attention, chief judge, and just see what they do with it.
Yeah.
But don't say it's an arrest warrant. Just say it's an affidavit or a petition for show cause hearing, or I have to go look at the proper terms they use, but where you're going to serve this on somebody, and now they have 10 days to answer. They can either come and fix the error, they can prove that they're correct, or they can go to jail.
Right.
Right, but you got it down to 3 things. So if it takes 10 days, well, so be it. So go to your title insurance, right, who never gave you fee simple title, and put in a misdemeanor complaint about them for for unlawful conversion of property.
Right.
Something like that, right? I'm not saying you need it. I'm just using that as an example for people that have lost their house in a foreclosure, right? You may have lost your house, but you still get the value of the house. So if this works, well, that's one way to get it out of them, is to call them into court.
Right.
Otherwise, they don't answer the phone.
Right. You might not get your house back. At least you get the value of it and dividends. Yes, we know that.
And damages, right? 3 times damages, because if you lost your house, well, it's too late, bro. That's 3 times damages now.
Yeah, but Bob, do you have my email? Because I can send you the court case where you don't have to pay the filing fees and stuff. We actually have it by congressional record and court fees, so long as you can prove your bloodline is exactly what it says.
Oh, wow. No. Yeah, if you want to send that to me.
You have my information, don't you?
I don't. Does Rob have it or anything?
Yeah, Rob has it. We'll get it to you. Because I don't like to do a lot of things over the line, because we have to respect each other's 4th, 5th, and 7th Amendment.
Sure.
And that's the way I really work. And I am Oregon Trackers, new Oregon Trackers, so we have this stuff up, but we'll get you the court cases. If people don't realize that you don't need to pay the fees so long as you're lawful in this country, not legal. And it has been proven by Superior Court even going back to 1884.
Well, hey, if that's
the 14th Amendment.
If that is the case, because that is kind of some of the things that, I've showed to Rob that we have discussed, because he was even shown like in the bankruptcy courts where they, that they can do injunctions and all this other stuff, and Rob was pointing it to me, and then you get down to it, and it's like, oh, it's $290-something to do it. It's like, oh, shoot.
I know, I've been through it, and they don't mess with me on it. My thing is very unique, because I've proven my standing and the circumstances. That's what they're confused about, because nobody's ever filed and proved their standing.
Uh-huh.
I have 15 years experience at the Oregon State House and Senate.
Oh, okay.
Okay, I have been elected and public official. I have been through a lot of things that people don't comprehend, that I sat in the back wings, watched, and so that's why I speak the way I speak, because I've actually lived it, witnessed it, and filed on it.
Oh, that's awesome.
Oh, yeah, well, trust me, Kate Brown is really pissed off at me because I indicted her.
Who's Kate Brown?
The governor of Oregon.
Oh, jeez.
I even got another indictment coming on treason. I got 9 total indictments coming on Kate Brown.
Now, are you doing that actually in the court that you're filing in, or?
Oh, I'm filing this through the House and Senate, because the House and Senate are your courts when it comes down to it, if you know it.
Okay. Well, because, see, that's the one thing, like, that's the other side of the coin that, I've been telling Rob that, access to, is because, like, a lot of the charters in our cities here in Arizona, they aren't following the actual state courts, and it's trying to figure out how to access those state courts.
Well, not only that, in Arizona that the senator in Arizona in 1985 stated through Arizona Congress that you don't need to have driver's license to travel, and that is actually on record throughout the entire state of Arizona.
I heard something about that, yeah.
I can prove all this stuff. This is where Rob is right, where if you don't file your rights, and if you don't file your structure of knowing when you go into court, this is what I admire about what I've watched Rob's videos for years.
Right.
He brings out a lot of value points, okay? But if you're not filing your rights, you have no rights.
Right.
So,
well, that's what we always said. If you don't know the left hand's doing with the right hand, then you can't do anything that you want.
Right, but you don't want that in your bedroom. You want to know what the hell's doing outside of your bedroom.
Exactly.
Okay? So Rob has some valuable lessons and valuable points that brings on his videos that I want to get people to comprehend what he's doing, and comprehending the lawful and legal structure. I've been watching Rob for years. That's why I'm blessed and thankful for him joining us tonight.
Sure.
Okay? And so the point is, we have the other side of things that are not being looked at. Okay? And Rob has a lot of stuff he brings to the table that people don't even look at what he's bringing to the table.
Right.
Okay? So when we start comprehending these structures of how the lawful and legal, lawful is constitutional, legal is British government, no offense, Rob, but the Bible. That's where it comes down to, and I've already proven this, not only that, because of my personal bloodline. That's why I tell people, know where your bloodline goes out. Who's your bloodline? How does your bloodline affect this country? Does it go back to, let's say, King James, who wrote the Bible? Let's see if it goes back to somebody else in a different country that wrote their structure. But are you claiming your rights in this country under the even Immigration Act? Because even the Immigration Act even admits 5 or more generations is lawful, not legal. And I've already proven all this through the Superior Court. That's why Judge Scalia was actually murdered, because we wrote the separation for lawful and legal for the Supreme Court. So, it is knowing your standing when you go into court of how to stand. That's where Rob brings this point that I admire him for bringing this point forward so people know the separation of lawful and legal. Without Rob and a lot of his research, none of us would know this.
Right. Absolutely.
Which is cool, but, for me, I'm going to go back to researching because, tomorrow, when we're all done talking tonight, come tomorrow, somebody's got to go do something and put a piece of paper in someplace to make them do something to see if they frickin' move, if that's what gets them to move. And so...
You got it, Rob. That's what I admire you about.
Yeah, so for me, I like to keep it really simple, and I don't care if I make a mistake. I just say, well, I guess I made a mistake. Please forgive me.
Well, didn't that come back to simple stupid?
Right. If you know I made a mistake, then you must know the answer.
That's right. And if you made a mistake, you don't know how to correct the mistake. So that's
right.
stupid.
If you can't, then why are you talking to me? Right? You sharing your private opinion with me is an ethics violation.
No, that's what you said on your own talk shows. That's what I admire you about, with the way you use your words.
Right, absolutely. And I write that stuff to them, and they don't care. I mean, I never get bothered for doing this stuff. So.
I agree with you on that. I just get people that freak out. But like right. you know some of the things you put in, and people go, "What the hell is this? How do we handle this?"
I'm sure that's the case, and that's why I do it. I want them to have to do something instead of just sit there like a bump on the log all week.
Right. You want them to respond to the facts, not hearsay.
Yeah. So, but Ed, I'm getting a little bit tired, right? So it's a little bit past my bedtime. I get up quite early in the morning, and we're out.
Does anybody else have a question for Rob before he goes? And if not, we are grateful and thankful to have him this evening.
I'll gladly answer. I'll gladly answer a question if somebody has one. But other than that, I am going to go because
we do have another caller. I just opened up the line.
Yeah, if I may. Getting back to this law, the true oath, the real oath, the what all are the parameters of that oath? Because I've never seen a real oath. I've seen the lie. I've seen Robert A. Irons, I know that's not his name, but that's on his oath, and that oath's 36 years old.
Well, my experience is they don't ever put in a proper oath. They always use their middle initial name. The guy signing, witnessing it, is using the middle initial name. So they're not. There is nothing legal from the top on down. They're not running the Constitution that that we would say, okay, this is where the law came from, so this is what they should do. Well, apparently they're using a different law. They're in a different venue.
Well, what they're doing here is a corporation.
Now, I have to say this. So they did take an oath, right? And so this is the thing. Look, they did take an oath, and they swore to God. Right? And they swore to uphold the Constitution. So maybe they're not a constitutional officer, but they still took an oath to uphold it. So I have seen or heard in federal court when somebody said, I accept your oath, I bind you to it, and remind you of fiduciary duty, that changed the venue of the court. Where the judge said, I'm protecting this man's God-given rights. I talked about this earlier. So it's like, okay, well, what would you do then? If you could get them to there, that didn't take much. Now, you had to say it 3 times before the judge said that, but that's the point about the 3. Let every matter be established by 2 or 3 witnesses. If he's not going to acknowledge that you've accepted his oath within 3 times of you asking him, then he's the one who's done wrong. Right? I mean, and he's well, that's 3 witnesses. I'm going to say, I guess he doesn't have an oath of office.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Well, what they are doing here, Rod, is they're stealing children for 3-to-1 federal funding, and they're paying these executive administrators, so-called judges, to complete adoptions so the state can withdraw their 3-to-1 federal funding. And they're paying caseworkers to be complaining witnesses, and they're certifying their statements, but they're not bringing their statements under oath.
Right. So you can see what they're not doing properly to the law. This is what they're supposed to do. They're not doing it. Well, then you know what that is to you? That's a deprivation of rights under color of law. So go have an arrest warrant issued.
I tried that. I tried that. They refused to. They refused to act against themselves, Rod.
But you missed the point. Have you listened to Rob and his suggestions on the way to file?
Yeah, I did. And I don't know whether I want to try it. I'm going to try it.
Right. Don't ever say no until you try. I'm not going to say it's going to work, brother, but don't discount something that you haven't tried.
Thank you.
Well, I'm going to give you my email address. It's Daniel_Beeler, BEELER, @yahoo.com.
Look him up. Contact him. Don't do it on this line. Show some courtesy here. Okay.
Okay, well, I've given him my email address so he can contact me. That way I don't have to have his.
I know. Okay. That. Figure it out. But what I'm saying to you, now you're seeing a different light. And that's the main reason that I'm grateful for him to be here tonight.
Right.
Okay, my email address is on my, if you go watch my videos, right, I put my email address on all my videos. It's not, I don't hide it. Right?
Okay, I appreciate that, Rod, because
go to Rob Ryder, ROBBBRYDER on YouTube. That's where my videos are. Search by upload date. Watch the latest ones, because that's the ones I care about, right? And if you see something and say, okay, what about this? Well, call me, man. I'll try to answer it, because I'm trying to solve the problem. I'm not trying to be a problem.
Yeah.
We have about him.
You know how you think they stole your grandchildren.
Right, I don't know these people.
Right,
I don't know them anything, and they're lying, cheating, and stealing. So I'm going to go tell them they are. As a Christian, I'm supposed to go tell the truth. And if I get persecuted, well, then I guess that's what happens.
Right.
That's why they have people called martyrs. Right, because they would not deny Christ. So I'm not going to deny Christ. I'm going to say, no, this is a Christian nation where I am. I don't care what you do, but I'm not in your nation. I'm in the Christian side. You're not going to treat me like a Gentile, a Gome, in your fucking Talmudic system. Right? And if you think you are, then I'm going to try to sever that Satan off of your back and put his ass in the frickin' ground. Because I don't have any men that are my enemies. My enemy is Satan. And I have
several men acting in the name of Satan, and that's the problem I have.
There you go. So the holy name of Jesus.
In the name of Satan.
Right. That's why I'm going to go in the holy name of Jesus, put on the armor, and go take my bumps. And if they persecute me, well, Jesus will understand what happened.
Well, I call him Yeshua, but yeah, it's the same. It's the same inference anyway. Anyway, I appreciate you. Thank you very much.
Okay, brother. I don't want to anybody's kids either. No, that shit's got to end. I'm all in making it end. I'm just going to try it my way. You try it your way. Somebody else can try it their way, but let's try to end it. right? I don't want to dialogue with the devil. I want to destroy him. I want to put him in the fiery pit. That's what Jesus. They kicked the devil out of the heavens. Where did he come? Onto earth, right? So the devil's here. We're supposed to deal with it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Right. I mean, it's our problem, and so we've been given the tools to do something about it. We got this wonderful system now, this internet, where everything in the world's available. It's like, well, there's nothing really hidden anymore, right? How do we use the tools that's been given to us?
Mm-hmm. Well, thank you for telling me how to bring forth a situation where they would have to act, because they refuse to accept criminal complaints against themselves.
I know. I've never had. They have never accepted one of mine either. I'm telling you, man, I put shit into every place. I complain about things all the time, and sometimes I get answers, but they never have. They've never actually issued a arrest warrant or anything else. Okay, it doesn't mean it can't be done.
Well, what happened with me is the man said it was administrative, and I said, well, if I'm an administrative hearing and I reach up and poke the judge in the nose, it's still administrative. And he didn't have anything further to say about it, but he says, I'm not going to take your complaint.
Right. Just like the judge told me, well, it's not that you're not correct, but I'm not going to issue any warrants.
There we go.
My complaint's in her hand. I'm watching her on TV. She's looking. You got my complaints. That's my handwriting. I can see it from here.
Yeah, but the only one that could issue warrants technically is the United States Marshals if you file it correctly. And
they will not take a complaint against the actors of the state unless the actors of the state brings them.
Daniel, let me finish.
Okay.
Okay, I know. I've got the post office general in my county that has been going through my mail and deciding what's been going out or in my territory for the last half years because of what I opened up and filed. When my case was dismissed, it was dismissed under recall. And if anybody know what recall means, it should have never happened. It was a fraud to begin with. That's what it means. Okay, they're terrified because if I prove the other facts on it, that means the court system that was put into my county in 1993, prior to 1993, we never had a court system in my territory, okay? 1993. Remember, this is not that long ago, 1993, 20 years ago. Okay, we didn't have this because if you drove without a license or you did hunting without a license or anything, you never went to jail. You had the right to do this. Okay? There was no conflict of interest. When they put the county jail in, they've been bleeding us out for millions of dollars. I've got billions of dollars filed on this fraud. Not only that, I'm the elected public official that filed on it. Truly. That's what
that elected public official might be an advantage to you because they sure don't want one from a civilian.
I know.
Anyway, I appreciate you, and thanks for everything, and I better let the man get some sleep. He has a right to do that. And if you want to contact me, you know who I am and where I'm at and what my fight's been for 4 years. And you take care of yourself. Appreciate you much. And
is it all right? So, am I saying good night to Rod, or saying good night to Daniel?
Good night.
Night, Daniel.
Good night.
Good night, Ed.
Oh.
Good night, Cinderella. I'm going too.
Anyhow, Rob, I admire you and I appreciate you being tonight's education.
No problem, brother. And I hope that tomorrow I can add something to it that I didn't know today because, you know, we did one more thing and we got one more answer, right? That's what this whole thing for me is just continually trying to get one step further than I was the day before. And at some point, it'll all make sense. And until then, it doesn't need to make sense to me. I just need to do it.
No, that's what I admire about you because, like I said to you, when I originally talked to you, I admire a lot of things you do, even though that you and I have some difference of thoughts, okay? But the main thing, we're on the same path of how to solve the issue.
Absolutely. I'm gonna let it all be told to me at the end. I'm not gonna worry about that now. I know who the enemy is. It's the devil.
We know that, yes.
Right. Right. So it's not my fellow man. It's the devil. Now my fellow man may have the devil in him and need to have him scared out, but he's not my enemy.
Well, and even if the circumstances goes back to 1710 when they book burned, we have to bring that out for the truth, and so people comprehend that if they don't have freedom, they don't have peace. And that means in their soul. But that's the point, that bringing the evidence out so we're not in a conflict of interest, we're properly educating so our children and grandchildren and the bloodline live in peace without the frustration of living in the hell we're living today, is the way I look at it.
Amen to that. I'm going to leave it at that, brother. It was well said. You have a great night, guys. Enjoyed it.
Admire you, and I thank you for joining us, Rob. And when you get more, please join us back. I'll keep in contact with you.
Okay, sounds good, brother. Have a good night. See y'all. Bye-bye.
May the Great Spirit bless you and Mother Earth feed you.
Amen to that. See ya.
All right. Anyhow, anybody else has any other comments before, basically, we're going to end the show. It's been almost 3 hours, so if anybody else got a thought, we'll go from there. Oh, I guess.
All participants are unmuted. Q&A session is over.
Anybody got a thought? If not, we're going to let Red Skelton say her end.
Can you hear me, Ed?
Yeah.
Charles Stewart here.
Hey, Charles, good to have you in. I'm glad to hear you.
Thank you. I'm sorry I just got your email. I was entangled in life.
Don't know how that do I, Charles?
What'd you say?
I said I could comprehend. I know what that means, dealing with life.
Yeah. But do you have a good discussion there with Mr. Ryder?
Yeah, I think we did. What did you hear? What was your opinion?
Well, I just heard him say goodbye. I just got here literally 2 minutes ago.
Oh, and the last, because I regret not being on your show the other day, because I didn't get the email until recently, because of the amount I receive sometimes.
Yeah, I've got the same problem. I'll try to get mine out earlier so that people got more time.
That would help instead of the day of.
Yeah.
You going to set yours up every Friday now?
Yeah, Friday, 4 p.m. Pacific time.
Okay, you set that up. I'll put it on the site, so that way people got another reference point.
I appreciate getting the word out there, Ed. I do appreciate that.
Well, the whole point is, Charles, that we're not working with each other, and it doesn't matter people's opinions. It matters what the Constitution law is. So long as we're standing on the law, that's what makes things matter.
Agreed.
So I am glad. So what was your point that you just cut in the last few minutes after I emailed you then?
Well, I just got your notice of your conference here just a few moments ago, and as soon as I saw it, I thought I knew I was late by 3 hours here or so for checking in, so but I figured I might catch the tail end, and abracadabra, you're still here, and I'm catching the tail end of it.
Would you do me a favor? Announce your website so people can look at some of the stuff that you've been involved in.
Constitutionalgov.us is our webpage, our main webpage, and I've got a YouTube channel, Charles8854. If you plug that into YouTube, you should get my YouTube channel. There's a few videos there that I think are worthy of serious law students paying attention to.
And that's the one point that we've got to pay attention to each other. So long as we might have a difference of knowledge or opinion, okay, but the main opinion is either you have rights or you don't. There's no conflict out of that.
Yeah.
You know, so that's the whole point of the point. It comes down to accountability of the rights.
Yeah. And you know, Ed, I like to look at, to my best of my ability, I like to look at people's hearts and the fruitages of their spirit to see what kind of work they're doing and what they're generally advocated. And if I can see people that are working towards the same goal that I'm working towards, I can kind of disregard all the minor differences of opinion on strategy and how to word things and stuff like that, because I know they're working towards the same ultimate goal that I'm working towards.
You and I have had personal conversation on that, even personally by face. Yeah.
And that's why we can still work together, is because we both got respect for each other, even though on a number of fairly important issues we got differences of opinion, at least at this time.
Well, we do got Kim Thatcher speaking out against sanctioned cities now.
Well, that's one of the issues that I think I differ with you on here, brother.
Well, you know me, if you're not lawful in this country, you don't have rights. You don't
that's another issue. That
claim when you don't have rights.
Yeah. But I love you, Ed. And I'm glad we're on the same page on most of our issues. And
we are definitely. We know that.
Yeah. And I'm sorry I missed the major portion of your call. I'll try to tune it in. Are you same time, same channel weekly here, or how's it working?
Yeah, every week, Monday night. We do it every Monday night. Are you doing yours actually every Friday night now?
Yeah, it's pretty regular. I'm pretty confident I'm going to be able to maintain that regularity.
Well, sure, I can put that up on the wall for a different view of education for people.
Yeah. In fact, you could use a link to our webpage if you like.
If I may. Charles?
Go ahead, man.
Yes.
If you look for on YouTube Oregon Trackers, you will find the YouTube account that has this video and the call all in one. So you'll be able to watch this video and previous videos also.
Okay. Sounds good. Who am I talking to?
That's my programmer.
Okay, appreciate the input there, Mr. Programmer.
No, I mean, you know, that we're blessful because we are expanding. Things are working out in a very blessful manner. We're bringing other people in to bring different points of view, so people know what the standing of this territory is of the 48 states compared to 50 states incorporated is. It is knowing the separation of legal and lawful.
Well, I've been currently focusing on the precincts and the townships and the counties and the power that's available to our people from the grassroots bottom up to confront the Roman civil municipal de factos.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, see, that the townships and the precincts are political subdivisions of the counties, and they can tell the sheriff and everybody else to stay out of their precincts and townships. That's the way it works if you do the research into...
Right, so if I paint my house zebra color, nobody's going to conflict with me, right?
Well, maybe people in your same township, but the municipality from the city certainly can't mess with you.
That's right. I know the city can't because they've already proven that point. But the point is, it's coming down to respect to one another. So if we don't respect one another's right, how do we have freedom, individual rights of freedom?
I'm looking up Oregon Trackers on YouTube here. Yes, individual rights of freedom are hard won and hard to maintain. But I've come to know that unless we start forming our common law jural society communities, we're going to remain vulnerable as a matter of law, because we've got to be able, after we get so many people together, we can elect our own judicial officer, and our judicial officer has the right to issue judgments where, because we've got original and exclusive jurisdiction over our community, so long as we follow due process of law, and if we issue our judgments to the other de facto communities, then they have no constitutional authority to come in and arrest our people or mess with our house painting or anything else.
Right. So we're on the
That's
same.
really big. The forming of our jural society communities is of critical importance, and that's why I'm tuning in to your show here, is because even though we disagree on other things, if you can just build people around what you believe in, and you can form your own jural society community, then your jural society community works with my jural society community and the others that we've got going, and together, what we do agree on, which is the great majority of stuff, we can form a united front on those issues. Does that make sense? Anybody there? Sound like you got shut down.
No, I'm here. I agree with you.
Okay.
I agree with you, Charles. That's the whole point. See, religion has nothing to do with it. It's common sense.
Well, I think religion does have something to do with it, but yes, it is common sense, and everybody should be smart enough to pick up on what we're talking about here.
Well, you know my belief on religion, so we won't go
Well,
there.
we don't need to get into that, because what we're talking about is just common sense. This is where the rubber meets the road, Ed.
Well, I know that's where the tire meets the road, because either you have liability or you don't. It's that simple.
Yeah, responsible for your own actions and don't hurt anybody.
That's not religion. Religion comes from a point of belief. Common
Well,
sense.
I got a different religion than you, Brother Ed.
We know that.
I think justice and the perfect law of liberty is a religious issue to me. And there are other. I can claim First Amendment protections. See, Congress can make no law respecting and establish a religion. See, your jural society group ain't going to be able to claim those First Amendment protections because you don't like that word religion.
No, but I mean, I could claim that because the religion is the Constitution to me. That's why is the Constitution. It gives me the rights. Religion don't.
Well.
No,
Are you saying you got your own form of religion, or you don't like religion at all?
I'm saying the Constitution is my religion.
Okay, then you do got a religion, which we can work with, and you still got the First Amendment protections, right?
You're a cop, you got it. That's what I've been preaching about for a long time, because
Well, sometimes your choice of words is a little bit confusing there, Brother Ed.
Hey, but you got the comprehension. If we don't have the Constitution, none of us have rights.
I would disagree with you.
Well, the Constitution gave us rights, not the Bible.
Well, neither one gave us our rights. Our rights come directly from the God of nature.
Yeah, but nature goes back to me, called Mother Earth and the Great Spirit that was here before religion invaded it.
Well, that could be called a religion. The Great Spirit and Mother Earth could be called a religion.
Fine, I'm not going to do semantics with you.
Well, we can come to agreement if you agreed.
Go ahead, hit the bell again. We'll get to the next caller here in a minute. Go ahead. Finish your point, Charles.
I think I made it, Brother Ed.
Well, I know. You and I have both been through these conversations more than once. You know, and that's the one thing I do respect you, Charles, like I do with Rob and everybody else, because we have our points of view or points of structure. Without that, we have no foundation that gives us our belief.
Yeah, well said, Ed.
Thank you. So, I mean, and that's the point. Without our beliefs, we wouldn't have freedom that we're able to stand on to pass to our children, you know, so that way, even though my two kids are dead, All right, but see, I want to make sure the bloodline passes down in this country, territory, so that way they have freedom, not enslavement.
That would be nice, wouldn't it?
Yeah, I know, and no offense, but sometimes, no offense, it depends on some way of people's belief in religion, we'll leave it that way, with no conflict of interest. But it's the belief that comes down of the belief of a religion. That's why the religion is the Constitution to me, because without the Constitution, you don't have the religion right to believe in your religion. I don't have the right to believe in my religion or freedom. You don't have the right to believe in your freedom and your religion without the Constitution. So without that founding structure our forefathers gave us, we're the only place in the world that actually has this existing today.
I'm glad you went into those details of your belief system, Ed. I didn't comprehend how all the pieces fit together like that from our previous conversations.
Oh, we've had to, but yeah, I have to respect you on that, because if I don't respect you, how are you supposed to respect me and my belief?
Well,
that way it gives us equal rights to believe in freedom, because if I sit there and say that your freedom and your belief is justified by religion, and I'm going to use the devil's term Muslim, by the way they treat women, that some have been treated by the southern point of wrongful education, okay? The point being is that if we believe a man and a woman have equal rights, without believing in equal rights, even though we might not like what a man does or we might not like what a woman does, if we don't respect their religious belief, how are we supposed to respect ourselves?
Yeah, there's plenty of room for tolerance here.
Right.
As long as nobody's committing a common law crime, we can tolerate each other.
Well, and then that what we're supposed to do is respect and tolerate each other, even though that your beliefs might not be my beliefs might not be your beliefs, but at least we know our common beliefs, believe in our rights to travel, our rights to hunt and fish, our rights to feed ourselves, our rights to travel, our rights to do this, and where the fuck is our, and yeah, I will say the word, where the hell is our federal funding that was put in the state and House of funding when they put this stuff in the House and Senate? And I know, I spent years up there. Where is that funding going back to we the people instead of funding it through the Elected and Public Employees Union? Because I will tell you this bluntly, where I've had plenty of elected and public officials for 35 years told me this. Well, you guys want slavery. You want jobs. You don't want freedom. You don't want to write off your structure. You don't want this. Excuse me, we want the structure of the Banking Act of the fraud that was done in the 400 pages that me and Dave Lee Buse put up, what we have filed, what we have done in the Supreme Court, okay? And if you're lawful in this country, you have rights. If you're legal until the 5th generation, as we wrote for the Superior Court, that with Judge Scalia, that we believe that he was murdered for, on record, and there is a videotape that did surface of the murderer who left when Judge Scalia was murdered. Okay, remember, Obama visited Scalia 3 hours before he was found with a pillow over his face. Come on, people, are you that damn stupid?
Wait, do we have documentation that Obama visited Scalia 3 hours before he was found?
It's been published in all the news media.
I haven't seen it.
Oh, I'll get it to you. We can prove it. Let's be on the show of a doubt. It's been a proven fact.
All right. Well, that's major news blurb to me, because I believe Scalia was probably murdered too. And a really important, noteworthy event off on the side of that, the judicial officer that found Scalia, or that certified that it was a death of natural causes or something like that. I forget. Anyway, that the judicial officer that certified that there's nothing suspicious here. Go ahead and take the body and cremate it, and don't do an autopsy, all that kind of stuff. That judicial officer he was a justice of the peace.
You got it.
He certified that there was nothing abnormal, which in what was probably a murder of a a significant judge on the Supreme Court of the United States of America, a low-level justice of the peace that they like to pretend is just a guy of limited jurisdiction. I'm sorry, justice of the peace is way more powerful than what they like to say. If you can certify that a judge on the United States Supreme Court dying under mysterious circumstances was all proper and normal, and there's nothing suspicious here. If you can do that, and everybody in the whole USA buys it, including other Supreme Court judge members, you got more than just a limited jurisdiction.
I know
You're
that.
a powerful individual. And that's the power of precinct-level justice of the peace officers here, Brother Ed.
That's the point. I do have that evidence I put out when that came for me, that me and Dave were supposed to serve him before he went to Texas, and we put it all over our internet. We filed it and recorded record publicly through the Oregon State House and Senate. We filed it publicly before he was murdered. We have our filing done with the Secretary of State. Oh, that was Kate Brown.
I seem to remember you doing stuff with Kate Brown right before that time.
Yes, you know what I'm talking about with Kate Brown and that shit. That even goes back to Richard on the bullshit. Yeah. I try to get Rich. Well, we won't go there. But
that would be good.
If he would have stand up on a different way he was going, he could have done a different filing.
Richard could do a lot of things way better than what he does. I have difficulties believing that he's that stupid, Ed.
I know that. That's what I'm trying to figure out. You and I personally know that.
Right.
So you and I have sat down and had the conversations. That's between me and you.
Right.
All right? But we don't believe that. Why, what, and how? So I have to respect the man for what he's getting his points of view from.
Yeah.
I mean, come on. You've been in the political world as well as I have.
Yeah.
You know what I'm referring to, not to be ignorant.
Right.
All right, so this is the point that, it's like our video that we put up in the city of Toledo dealing with the rights to travel and stuff that's all been around. We've approved in the state of Oregon by Oregon state law you don't need a driver's license. Oh, Richard was the first one that was the one that brought it out, but, he wasn't the first one. He was the first one who brought it publicly out, to my knowledge. Do you comprehend my words?
Well, about we're not lawfully required to have driver's licenses, right?
Right, without the traveling.
Yeah, Richard champions that issue. Richard wasn't the first in Oregon to argue that issue. That issue, since they started enforcing licenses, was way before Richard's time, and there were other good men before that have.
99 on the bullshit when Lars Larson took it up on his talk show.
Well, if that was the starting point for Richard,
I can see that brought it forward. Because everything on Lars Larson's talk show on his, background record has been eliminated.
Well, maybe so, but there's lots of side issues like that we can spend the whole universe of time talking about.
Point.
Right.
I wish Richard would have stood up on different things.
Well, it's not held. I have difficulties allocating any time or energy to focus on Richard because it all turns into such a tar baby mass of confusion.
We already know it.
Yeah. So
let's be respectful to each other on this.
Yeah.
This is what the point is. Comes from a life experience of who, what, why, and how.
Yeah. Are you familiar with the work we've been doing recently on my conferences where we're bringing forth jury trial verdicts?
No, I have not been informed on that. Would you inform everybody else right now what you're doing?
Sure. A primary example that we've been working on, and this might be controversial. Some of your people might be fans of the group that is generally led by a fellow named Keith Livingway.
Mm-hmm.
Call themselves the Government of the United States of America, 1781 or something like that. And General Postmaster or something like that. A number of our people have had bad experiences with Keith Livingway, and to start out our process for bringing forth jury trial verdicts on a whole multitude of issues, the first case that we're starting on here spontaneously erupted in one of our phone conferences like this, where all of a sudden we were talking about Keith Livingway, and a number of us said, that guy is really despotic and authoritarian and manipulative, and he's not serving the interests of the American people. And a whole bunch of us started to agree on that, and I said, well, we could form a common law jury verdict declaring that Keith Livingway is not an honorable qualified elector, and he's not qualified to have any voice in the organic, lawful American body politic. And that's basically what I've got a jury trial verdict already. We've got 8 people signed on to the document that I've got online. I can communicate to you in a simple web link, and since then we've had 2 other people sign on, so we're at 10, and we're going to get 12 jurors, I'm sure, probably within the next couple of weeks. Maybe you guys here might be willing to sign on that Keith Livingway is not a qualified elector because of his general reputation of abusing people and being disrespectful and unlawful in a multitude of areas. And so anyway, that's what we're working on, and I hope I didn't offend anybody that's a big Keith Livingway fan, but if people would like to defend Keith Livingway, we issued him notice. We posted on his webpage, come on in, explain to us about all these accusations against us. We will listen, and if you've got good explanations, we'll back off, and we won't find you not guilty, or we won't find you to be unworthy of being a qualified elector. Come on in, talk to us. He won't come in, talk to us. He made a video in response talking about how crazy we are and how he don't need to appear. Well, guess what? We're going to issue a default judgment based upon he's not appearing, not addressing the issues that we raised, and we think we can get 12 people that will adjudicate that he's not a qualified elector, and thereunder he's not a lawful American.
Right, lawful versus legal, that is true.
Well, and that's where the rubber meets the road. Either you're lawful or you're not. We don't care what else it might be.
No,
you got to be a lawful American.
You know the way I stand on that. It has to be lawful, not legal, because legal could be changing coats. Lawful has to be honorable because they're liable. Legal is not.
I'm glad you merely referenced changing coats, because the de facto government does like to use that term legal to indicate their own de facto jurisdiction.
Right, so they can put it in foreign jurisdiction, absolutely.
Yeah, and they silently presume that the average American is smart enough to know that they're playing those word games when the average American isn't, and there underlies the deception, and everybody's led off into the pit of hell.
Oh, yeah, no, that's a fact. That is a fact. So we're dealing with that one. Anyhow, my friend, I am glad to hear you join. I'm bummed out, and I will say I'm bummed out because I didn't know you had yours Friday. That's where I was asking you if you're doing your stuff every Friday. Would you bring your stuff forward right now?
The conference is hosted on TalkShoe.com. The phone number there is 1-724 444-7444. And the conference ID number and that you'll need to enter if you just call in by phone is 10929. That's 10929. And follow that by a pound sign off your phone. Go ahead.
What time every Friday?
Pacific time would be 4 p.m. And Eastern time would be 7 p.m.
Gotcha. Because you know how I feel about religion. Everybody knows how I feel about religion.
Everybody.
You know, but the bottom line comes down to respecting another man's point of view or another woman's point of view, so long as they have lawful rights, not legal rights. When they have lawful rights, they're speaking. When they have legal rights, they're speaking from the Queen of England and attorneys. You know, of course, they don't give a shit about you. It is knowing your rights, and this is the point that we're working on, putting the pieces together. And I'm going to end the show tonight, and I appreciate you for calling in, my friend. But I thank Rob for joining us tonight to bring another point of view in. You're bringing another point of view in. And the point without these points of view of knowing where we're going, how to comprehend, and I'm not going to say understand because I don't understand the devil, because people always email me, oh, Ed, you don't believe in the Bible. You're going to go to hell. Well, if I'm going to hell, I want to be the best devil in the hell that is. And if I'm the best devil, trust me, I'll dream you in your dreams. And if you're honorable, you have nothing to worry about.
If you're honorable, you have nothing to worry about. That's good.
Got it.
Ed.
You know what I'm saying. But the point,
I know what you're saying.
We can't argue about semantics. We have to comprehend our court systems today are run by black robe judges. Black robe comes from the Vatican. Do your damn research. Don't sit there and play stupid.
That's a good point, Ed. I hadn't thought about it that way.
Huh?
I hadn't thought about it that way, that the black robe is indicating the Vatican. That does seem to link together.
Oh, well, we've had that conversation even in your own home. And I thank you for seeing the light.
All right, Brother Ed. I'm glad to be communicating with you.
Comprehending that one. But see, the major point that comes down to all this structure is, if you want religion, religion doesn't give you rights, it gives you control. The Constitution gives you rights. Without the Constitution, you have no rights to your religion. Doesn't matter if you're, and I hate to use this word, Muslim. I don't give a damn shit. But if you're Muslim, shut the freak up, keep it to yourself, and keep it in your home. If you're whatever religion you are, keep it in your home. Respect the people outside of your home. I grew up in San Francisco. I grew up in the gay and lesbian bullshit that was going on, as some would call. You religious people call the gay and lesbian bullshit. I grew up, I didn't have a problem with it. I saw who was gay and lesbian. I comprehended and accepted it. I didn't accept that in my life or my belief. I would not accept that in my belief, or what they call trans and all these 8-year-old kids doing it as programmed by their mothers doing bullshit or their fathers doing bullshit. You cannot make a logical decision until you're after 18 years old. Let's be realistic. In the state of Oregon, they're registering you as a voter at 17. You have no rights to be a voter or registration because you have no concept of the reality of life. Not religion. Religion is programmed. Reality of life comes when you start putting the pieces of the puzzle together. And once you start putting the pieces of the puzzle together, that's where we have to respect another man and woman's right to religion. All right? I respect another man and rights of religion. When one religion wants to tell me when I go to court I have to think about something, It's like everybody's going on the point of the South going, oh, we need to eliminate this structure because of the religion belief of the South. The real god dang history. All right? But once you comprehend the real history, and if you believe God, that great spirit, I'm not going to use the word God because God came from a religious point of view from another country. Okay? When it comes down to you were not born, you didn't have a life. Don't give me this test tube bullshit and fantasy of this crap. Because without mother, there was no trees, there was no salmon, there was no bass, there was no deer, there was no elk, there was no, cows, there was no sheep that we run off a cliff on following. There was no other stuff without mother. Without mother didn't give us a right to live. Step out of the movie and watch the production, how it works. And I preach this to a lot of people. Step out of the movie, watch the production. If you believe in your rights and your life, and I mean your life of freedom, and that's medication. I don't give a shit, and all these people say, oh, Ed, you shouldn't get pain medication because of your medical condition. You're supposed to die and suffer. Well, I'm supposed to have pain medication so that way I'm not dying and suffering. If I die because of it, I knew what I took. When are we people, men and women, going to be god dang responsible to teach our children the rights of facts of life? We're not here to conform to keep the government, a.k.a., let's say the state of Oregon, and the devil, Kate Brown, working. Kate, I'm coming for your soul. You know that. I even told you that 2006 on the Secretary of State hearing format. Remember what you told me about my family when my family was destroyed. I will never forget what you said, Kate Brown. You got to remember, I was at the public hearing on that with, what was that called? Mayor of Toledo, City Council of Toledo, and their written opinion, and the written opinion of the City of Newport Council, and including Jean Cowan, and her son, Cowan, that was a doctor that tried to screw me, that the Department of Justice even stated that I was right. So you gotta realize the facts on this, folks, because if you don't start standing up to these frustrations, these public and elected officials get paid off on the other side. They get paid off if you die. They don't care about you. Doctors and nurses don't care about you. They care about their income. I've talked to many of them. They know they get a percentage of paycheck when you die. And I'm not being disrespectful, but you have to comprehend that if you were in the same situation, what would you do? Quit living in this religious fantasy. Because right now we're dealing with financially structure day in and day out.
Yeah, there's real people whose lives are being destroyed here day by day. We don't need to be caught up in metaphysical mumbo-jumbo.
Thank you. And you and I had this conversation even in your own house.
Right.
I do remember that conversation. Even Richard was involved, even though where he was at.
Yeah.
But see, if we don't sit there and protect one another, what future do we have?
Yeah, we got to work together.
That's the whole point. If we don't work together to preserve our bloodline, and it doesn't matter if you're legal or lawful, and I mean, It does not matter if you're legal or lawful, but if you're lawful and legal and it does matter to you, how do you protect your lawful rights to pass your bloodline down? That's what matters to you. How do you do it?
Yeah, and you don't want to be using the word legal at inopportune moments when the de factos might construe that to mean you're a 14th Amendment slave.
Oh, thank you! So the 14th Amendment means a different structure what people are led to believe. Would that be fair?
That is precisely the essence of the vast majority of our problem in the USA today.
Correct. And that is the point. If we don't honor one another, legal or lawful, how do we expect to have freedom for our children?
Yeah, good point, Ed.
Well, see, people don't look at the obvious. They want to sit there and argue for their financial gain they can get today instead of their freedom of their bloodline tomorrow. They don't give a shit about their bloodline tomorrow because they don't think about it, and that's a sad point. Would that be a fair assumption?
Yes, we agree on that.
Well, I mean, without that, how are you supposed to live? Because if you're extinct, you're extinct. You have no life after that without, I don't know, people talking about you to pass your rights down that made you, that gave them their freedom.
Yeah.
I guess our forefathers could say that today.
Yeah.
Is that what we're talking about and arguing about today? Without that, we have no freedom. Through the Constitution, and we can go back to the structure of, what is that called? You know, the Administration Act dealing with the rights of, everybody wants to call it the civil rights.
Oxymoron.
Go ahead.
Oxymoron right there.
Well, that's like calling yourself a sovereign citizen, and I've done that in court myself where the judge told me to get the fuck out of his courtroom. Sorry, I won't say I'm forgiveness for my words. I just said it the way it is. He said that to me. You know, but the point is that he got the point I said. I got the point he said after I left the courtroom. Rob even had a reminder that he brought up in that point. So that's one thing I admire about Rob, and everybody knows my religious points of view, as you know what I'm talking about. You know, but if we don't respect one another, what freedom do we have?
Well, you're asking a question. You could state that as a proposition, which I would support.
Oh, well, all right. If you're going to second that, I'll state it as a proposition. You walked me into that, my friend.
Thank you, Ed.
Without that, because you and I know that sometimes we have a religious point of view. Is that fair to say?
Sure.
Okay, but you brought me into that point of view. Without that point of view, even with Rob, you know, it's like Rob says, register yourself. I comprehend what Rob is saying. You know my personal point of view on that and my own writings. Okay? But see, I have to respect that point of view because the original structure going back to the court system that was led to believe. So either we are one or the other, and that is the point that we have to file on. And see, if you people don't claim your rights to your blood, what rights do you have?
Stated as a proposition, if you don't claim your rights to your blood, you have no rights.
Well, that's the other point. I go through the crazy bullshit, and I'll say it that way. Supposedly, I'm the 13th great-grandson of King James himself, by all the recorded history bullshit.
Well, we don't want people to accuse you of being an egomaniac, bragging about yourself all the time here, Ed.
No, I agree with you on that, because I don't give a freak about that. But the bottom line comes down to is that why would I claim a foreign structure when I made an oath to this country to protect our rights from foreign invaders? And that is in writing more than once I took that oath. So, I mean, and that's the point that people have to comprehend on that reality. If we have a constitution that is supposed to protect us from religion, points of view, and all this stuff, you're entitled to have your free religion rights. I admire you for that. But it doesn't matter professionally. Literally pissed off people. And I said, okay, well, they're gay and lesbian. And everybody says, well, Ed, how come you... And I literally... You guys have to realize and comprehend this reality. You know, I mean, really comprehend this reality. I was sat there in a senator's room. People came up when Kate Brown was doing this thing on immigration. It's no BS. You can believe me if you want, and if you don't, I don't give a darn. Because in your shadows, in your night dreams, it's going to happen to you. But I was questioned, why are you not down there tearing up Kate Brown and all this? And my attitude was, and I actually wrote it and put it in record, is that if you want to be gay and lesbian, that's your personal constitutional right to say this. You don't have superior rights to say I'm gay or lesbian and I have to be protected. You're saying I'm gay and lesbian, I have equal rights as any man and woman that I can't be screwed with. You are an equal terminology. You're not above one another.
And they're under, you don't need any dang special legislation on your behalf.
Right. You nailed it on the head. You don't need special liberation or rights. The Constitution gives you equal rights, and if you don't comprehend that, you're a dumbass.
Yeah.
It's that simple. You know,
Yeah.
it really is that simple. So if you file on your claims, even what Rob was saying about filings. Now, I don't do certain things with IRS and stuff. People personally know me on that. I have beaten them more than one account. But the bottom line comes down, if that's what you would like, then you're making a decision on your registration of your life through the Vatican, through the circumstances of our legal system. Remember, legal is British law, constitutional, or constitution, forgive me for saying constitutional, Constitution law is the law of the land. If you want to go by administrative rules of the British government, you go by the British government. That way you relinquish your rights to them. So it's like what I was always told when I went to court. Throw your soul and your body on the mercy of the court. So I get to throw my soul and the mercy on the black robe coat of the Roman Catholic Church. But the Roman Catholic Church, no offense, you know where I'm coming from with this. I don't have a right to go in that fashion. I have the right to believe that I have rights. So the rights give me the freedom not to believe in a religion. I believe in my rights to be free.
Yes.
All right, so, you know, if you want to go out and hunt and fish for mushrooms or food tomorrow, you don't need a permit. You have the right to do it so long as you're lawful, not legal.
And you don't trespass on anybody's land.
Well, that depends. It depends if they got their land after a certain year or not under the contracts that I filed on. Trust me, I filed on this stuff. You know, after 1980, you know, they can't sell public land. They can't issue public land to private structure. That includes phone companies, electronic companies, and all this stuff. Because we the people, if you go back to even, what was that called? Edison with the light bulb was a public company that we the people own. It wasn't privatized until 1942 after Administration Act.
Okay. You seem ahead on me on that issue, Ed.
There are things, But anyhow, my friend, I would like to thank you for joining us. I want to end this for my computer guy.
Yeah, it looks like you got a good crew. That your Oregon Trackers YouTube page, the live broadcast, that's looking real slick. You got some good techie help there, Ed. That's valuable.
I'm working on it, because if we don't start educating ourselves on our rights, not privileges, we're not going to have rights. We're going to end up under administrative rules that I do not want to see us doing. I want us to see us so we have rights, not privileges.
Right. Agreed.
You know that. We've sat in your home and had many conversations on that.
Yeah, for sure.
Even though sometimes that we've had our opinion, but the one thing by our opinion, we've come to a conclusion of some thoughts that we're looking on equal playing field the way I felt.
Yeah. We're mutually respectful soldiers in the same battle. Yeah, we got to hang together, or else the bad guys are going to win, man.
Right, and that doesn't matter your belief, my belief, or whatever it is. Our belief comes down to the Constitution gives us rights.
Well,
and if we believe in the Constitution giving us equal rights, that's how we're going to win.
Definitely heavy on the equal. I'd fine-tune your wording there a little bit for my preferences, but we agree on the essence. Yes, Ed.
Because my preferences goes on your structure of your structure of city and county. I know that, but I want to make sure with the city and county of our opposition, sometimes we have a point of view. I want to make sure that's stated so it can't be a conflict of interest.
Right.
And I'm being honorable with you on that, because I know this. I know a lot of people you and I do deal with. You and I deal with probably 1,500, a couple thousand people.
Yeah.
Okay, but I want to make sure that if we don't stand up equally, how are we going to sit there and preserve our rights equally? Even though that we might have a personal view of something else, but if we don't have the same equal right to wipe our butt, how are we supposed to have equal right to flush the toilet?
I'm not sure those words are optimal, but the principle's there.
Just the way, my friend. You know me, I say things sometimes I'm corny.
A little bit colorful, yes.
So, but anyhow, I want to end this discussion tonight. I am very grateful and thankful for you joining us.
Well, I'm glad to be sharing with you here, Ed, and we'll see you again real soon. I hope everybody can at least think about joining us on Friday evening when we're talking about empowerment through the townships and the precincts under our counties. That's how we build the grassroots from the bottom up to take over our counties. We got to start with the townships and the precincts. These are smaller. Those are smaller rural societies. The township is the smallest rural society where we need to start working from, and then 10 townships make a precinct, and then 10 precincts make a county. And all the power is right down at the township level. That's where the enforcement power is at with your town constable. And we'll be talking about that on Friday evenings here, 4 p.m. Pacific time, 7 p.m. Eastern time. TalkShoe, call on for TalkShoe.com, caller ID number 10929, pound.
Yeah, my problem is if I want to paint my house zebra color, nobody has a right to complain.
Well, it would. I like to look for social harmony, and that zebra color house would look a lot better out in the middle of the boonies than in heavy town areas where everybody's cookie cutter,
Yeah, I know, but if I want to paint my house zebra color, what the hell you got to say when I paint my house zebra color?
Right. But you ought to. The before you do the zebra color, you got to trade to somebody that's out in the boonies, and let them have your regular house, and then you'll get their house out in the boonies, and there you can paint it zebra color.
I live in a city. I'm painting my house zebra color, so freak 'em.
Well, you're being a little bit disharmonious in the social structure there, Brother Ed.
Not part of the social, because I don't give a damn about the British government.
Well. Love you like a brother, Ed. You're going to wind up the show here, right?
No, I'm going to sit there with double buck ready for the invasion with many things ready to take out a couple of square blocks. What the hell do I care? I got to be realistic, because if I don't be realistic, if people don't respect my race, how can I respect theirs?
Well,
it's a conflict of interest.
Yeah. Well, I hope you guys can tune into my show on Friday evening, and glad to share a discussion with you here, but I do got a couple other pressing duties I got to get back to. I
appreciate it, my friend. We'll talk to you soon. But just remember, instead of us being judgmental, if we actually work with one another, we don't have the conflicts, because if we're supposed to love one another, we're supposed to let each other paint the way they want. And after that, then we can judge. We can't judge until it happens.
Well,
yeah.
I think I like your spirit of your words, but I'm not sure about the choice of words. We can talk about that more in the future, but we're harmonious in our spirits, Ed. We know that. We got too many points that we agree on.
I know that. Same with me and others, but I've sat there and discussed this with you, and these are the points that if we get over these little psychological hurdles, we can sit there and make sure we have peace amongst each other.
In some ways, Ed, you're a real genius. I really like you.
Anyhow, my friend, we'll call it a night. May the Great Spirit bless you. Travel with Mother Earth, and may the Great Spirit feed you.
Ditto, Brother Ed. Take care. Good night.
All right. Anyhow, we're going to end the show this evening. It's 8:42 my time. Mainly, I want to thank Rob for bringing his points of view in to us. This is the whole point, majorly, from all of us. Learning these other points of facts and views, because if we don't learn this and open our minds up, how are we supposed to sit there and justify bringing our bloodline to our property, so that way we put our property in the children's respect so they can raise food, collect water, take care of themselves. This is your bloodline on your property. You got to get your butt out of your head. Your head out of your butt. Wake up to reality. Elected and public servants have actually done this. Reality. And if you don't get it, you're not going to have freedom for your blood. When you have grandchildren, great-grandchildren, great-grandchildren, if you can't sit there at the Thanksgiving table and said, oh my God, I gave the kids land. I gave them food. I gave them the rights to live life. You're the devil. If you can't say that at Thanksgiving, that you protected your bloodline, you're the devil. Screw me. I don't give a shit. Everybody says I don't go by the Bible and I do this. Oh, Ed, we're praying for you and all this stuff. I pray to God. Those people who pray to me, let me be the devil. I want to come back. Trust me. Otherwise, I don't believe in the bullshit. I want to believe in reality of the life. Our Constitution gave us a reality of life. What is that called? What is that? People say, oh, the reality didn't give you life, liberty, and pursuit of happiness. So medically, that gave you life, liberty, and pursuit of happiness as what they have in turn by, I don't know, called the government, that proclaim that the government has your life, liberty, and happiness instead of you. File your rights. Rob has a valid point on a lot of stuff Rob Ryder was bringing out on you. Okay? Separate the issues of religion compared to the Constitution. Like I said, I admire Rob for a lot of things he does. A lot of things when I filed my rights years back. I learned from stuff, but I learned different other things. How to claim my rights where I don't get messed with. That's why they're terrified of me. And they're terrified of Rob, too, in a lot of stuff. He's bringing a lot of stuff forward. They don't know how to verify and confirm because, oh, shit, he brought this forward. How do we deal with it? Elected and public officials have to realize you took an oath. Title 5, 331, 3333. That goes back to the Treaty of 1213 and the Magna Carta of 1215 in England. England is not the United States. We've already proven that, Dave and I have. Alright? You want to bring the English bullshit forward? I condemn the frickin' Queen of Hell to hell. Okay? Even though that the Queen of England is from, Germany. She's not the Queen of England of England. The last blood structure was done by King James that actually left England in 1710. Do your real history. Know the truth. Figure out the facts of what's going on in reality of life. That's your decision to do. Otherwise, there's no point. All right, we're going to be taken over by a tsunami and we're all dead. So what are you going to do tomorrow? If you're not dead tomorrow, how do you fight for your rights? Rob has his points of view. Charles brought up another point. Other people bring up their points of view. You have to sit down as logical adults, make a proper decision of what, why, and how. Everybody has their factual points of view. And it's like Rob said, Rob Ryder says, when you go to court, where are you standing? I've been preaching that for years. Everybody knows that. So how do you know you're standing when you go to court? Are you lawful or legal? Do it right. Rob brought the point. Oh my, I'm looking at the time on the clock. Hey, I would like to say good night. I am very blissful and grateful that you guys enjoyed us tonight, brought us into your home, listened to us on different points of views, and it's up to you to make the logical decision of what your right is on this soil. Remember, this soil that I'm standing on is 48 states, not 50, not the rest of the world. It does not, 48 states is not the world, not Canada, not the North American Agreement or anything. Do your research. Claim your bloodline. Claim your account that Rob was talking about earlier tonight. Learn the structure of your bloodline. If you don't do that, you have no future. And let me tell you, my kids are dead. Why do I care? I care about your bloodline. If you don't prove it, you have no bloodline. If I had my bloodline, trust me, my kids will be more venomous than I am. But that is another story, or another fiction, or another reality of life. So with that, I'm going to end that. We're going to end up with our song tonight, unless my administrator has something to say. Otherwise, may the Great Spirit bless you. Walk with Mother Earth, and without the Great Spirit, you're not blessed, because without Mother and the Great Spirit, there's no food.
Well, I remember a teacher that I had. Now, I went through the 7th grade. I went to the 7th grade. I left home when I was 10 years old because I was hungry. And I used to, this is true. I work in the summer, I go to school in the winter. But I had this one teacher. He was the principal of the Harrison School in Vincennes, Indiana. To me, this was the greatest teacher, a real sage of my time, anyhow. He had such wisdom. And we were all reciting the Pledge of Allegiance one day. And he walked over, this little old teacher, Mr. Laswell was his name. Mr. Laswell, and he says, I've been listening to you boys and girls recite the Pledge of Allegiance all semester, and it seems as though it's becoming monotonous to you. If I may I recite it and try to explain to you the meaning of each word. I, me, an individual, a committee of one, pledge, dedicate all of my worldly goods to give without self-pity, allegiance, my love and my devotion to the flag, our standard, Old Glory, a symbol of freedom. Wherever she waves, there's respect, because your loyalty has given her a dignity that shouts freedom is everybody's job. United. That means that we have all come together. States, individual communities that have united into 48 great states. 48 individual communities with pride and dignity and purpose. All divided with imaginary boundaries, yet united to a common purpose. And that's love for country. And to the republic, a state in which sovereign power is invested in representatives chosen by the people to govern. And government is the people. And it's from the people to the leaders, not from the leaders to the people, for which it stands. One nation, meaning so blessed by God, indivisible, incapable of being divided, with liberty, which is freedom, the right of power to live one's own life without threats, fear, or some sort of retaliation. And justice, the principle or qualities of dealing fairly with others. For all, which means, boys and girls, it's as much your country as it is mine. And now, boys and girls, let me hear you recite the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Since I was a small boy, 2 states have been added to our country, and 2 words have been added to the Pledge of Allegiance: under God. Wouldn't it be a pity if someone said that is a prayer and that would be eliminated from schools too?
Listening to disclaimers by Davidlee Buess and Edward Johnston. Today is Monday, August 14th, 2017. And remember to send your well wishes and prayers to David, who is in the hospital. And for the Charles information, in case anybody missed it, he will be on TalkShoe. Phone number to call in is 1-724-444-7444. The code is 10929 #. And they will be on every Friday night at 4 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. Thank you very much for listening, and thank you for sticking with the overtime part of the show too. Everybody have a very, very good night.